Well,
here we are, boys.
Cheers, boys.
Cheers.
Here we are.
Cheers. Everyone get it in there. He's a lot of chewer. I could use a little bit more dough.
Yeah.
Mine's got plenty of dough.
It's not overcooked
Yeah, sure.
necessarily, but it doesn't have that like real chewy like softness to it.
It's a damn good cookie.
You guys must have got a bad batch because mine is clearly crunchy on the outside and gooey on the inside.
I mean, I like to take this.
Oh, the inside is very doughy. I love that.
Let me shout out to Dave Fish, right? The guy's a great guy. I'd love to be sitting at this table with Fish having
He's
a cookie.
here. He's here.
You know,
Yeah.
got the
You know what?
headset on.
You know what, Dave? I think you get too much credit on this show.
Yeah. Well, whose
I
show
feel like
is it?
you guys
It's
can have
our
this
show.
super like legit conversation going, and Dave will like come in from way low monotone and like bring it all home. I love when Dave hits the mic, man.
Who are you and why are you on the show, Harv?
Yeah,
I'm not done with my cookie yet.
just wondering the same thing.
If you made it this long, folks, if you made it through the cookie, by God, you're going to enjoy this podcast. Oh, man.
And by the way, you're the loudest chewer.
Am I?
Yeah, everyone. He's the only one eating a cookie. Literally, no one else even ate a
that's
cookie
embarrassing.
besides you.
That is embarrassing.
Oh, man, dude. Really? Did you guys just do that to me?
No.
Was that it? Did I just get duped?
Go Flames.
Fire up.
Well, that's embarrassing because I've been called out multiple times about my chewing abilities and how I'm a loud chewer. So now I just made it public. It got loud, didn't it?
You're one of the three loudest chewers that I've ever been around.
Oh, man. That's
Do you want to know the three?
Yeah.
It's you, Booski, Kent Hulls. Three loudest chewers I've ever met
Kent's
in my entire
bad.
life.
Booski's bad. I think you're bad, too.
You're saying that because you want the listeners to think that. And I get that. I understand that.
That'll be tough for me right there. I got something to work on. That's going to be tough on me.
He goes the enemy.
I'm going to have to listen to that before we let that one roll on how loud it was. I hope it wasn't loud, annoying loud. I apologize if it was.
The good thing is you probably won't think about it for the entire show.
No, I'm going to turn the edges back. This is a magical podcast. As I can bring us in, hone this in real quick. It's a beautiful evening here. We're in it's a late night evening, Thursday night. We have Nate Orf with us in the middle. He's got a turtleneck on. He's got a blanket over him. We're inside.
Yeah.
He's from St. Louis, Missouri. Currently is with the Milwaukee Brewers. Has been a teammate of Steve's. Played with Steve McGuiggan at Illinois, Chicago. The three of us met in 2010 in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, where we won a national championship. It was a blast. We had a great time. A couple years later, Orfie and I met up again. We were with the Brewers in 2013. I'd like to think that I got a little screwed in there. I don't know what happened. I think he was paying people with his signing bonus behind my back to get himself to the big leagues. Yeah, I think he was given $1 a day. So just found the right guy that needed $1, I guess. So he made himself to the big leagues. McGuiggan hired me. And now we're on this podcast in 2018, getting ready to enjoy a new year into 2019. I'm sure we'll get deep into teamwork, sportsmanship. I was trying to go teamship there. But without further ado, thanks for coming, Nate.
Yeah. I mean, it's you texted me the other day about being on the podcast, and is one of those things that, a day later I'm like, I can't call in over the phone. Like, these are my dudes. And you're like, Steve's going to be on. I'm like, I haven't seen Steve since 2010. 2010, championship year.
Championship year.
Way.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Yeah.
That's true. I haven't seen him since he left. Got on the bus.
I've talked to Steve maybe once.
Come on.
Twice.
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 In 8 years.
Oh, yeah.
Come on.
And so I said, I will be at that podcast table with these dudes.
So I got, and like I said, to people who are going to listen to this, it is late. We're best of buds. There's some deep roots here. These guys, the guys sitting at the table, we've been through some stuff. You know what I mean? We've battled. We've chased our dreams together. There's some deep roots here. There's a reason why there's a little bit of wine induced into this 49th, episode. And
sometimes you need it.
And so I think it's interesting, and I want to touch on that topic because you did. I had asked you, well, for one, I got to share the story of why you turned this podcast down about a year ago when I was pissed at you. Remember that? So Orfie made it to the big leagues this year. For people who are interested in that, we've also spent a lot of time talking about how you're just a human, right? Oh, yeah. So we're going to get that out early and often.
Yeah, just a man.
But before you made it to the big leagues, we had asked Nate to jump on the podcast. He's got a great story. We'll dive into some mastery, dive into some things that you've done and what we've talked about all week. It's been an entire week of just intellectual thoughts, deep thinking, challenging, sharing information with each other, talking about reminiscing, all these cool things. And last year when we were getting rolling, we were looking for podcast guests. Steve and I were always constantly trying to find who do we know?
Who'd be funny?
Yeah, who'd be funny?
Who'd be interesting?
Who has a good story? All these things, right? And Orf has had a great story before he made it to the big leagues.
Sure.
Right?
Absolutely.
So we reached out to Orf, and I'm not going to call you Nate. His name's Nate Orf. I'm sick of saying Nate. We're going with Orf.
Weird. He's Orf.
Yeah. I'm sick of saying it. We're trying to get a hold of Orfie, and I go, Orf, we want you on the podcast. And he goes, man, let me make it to the big leagues first. And it was crazy because, in hindsight, you can kind of fabricate it however you want to, but everyone knew, and I knew that, yeah, he does have a point. He's going to get to the big leagues. Let's keep him focused. He's a focused individual. We've seen that all week. Let's not tinker with his systems. Let's not get into the dome. Let's let this guy, this journeyman of just embracing suffering, just a dude who just gets himself into the gauntlet and just rides out into the sunset for all days, every day. And that's why he drove up here. But this guy says, I want to be on the podcast when I make it to the show. And so I think that's a cool story. But then segue to this offseason. Now he gets into his offseason and he makes it to the big leagues. Selfishly, and we can get into the ego, I'll open it up a little bit. Steve and I are a little more jacked, because now we have a guy who played in the big leagues.
We got a guy.
Yeah, we got a big league guy. There's some little bit more substance there.
You're driving, you're saying, this is one of my best friends.
Probably got a super tight.
We talk every day.
We rolled out the red carpet for this guy. If he was still in, if he wouldn't have been in the show, I don't know how much of that we would have given to him.
Marty,
hot dog dinner.
For the listeners, Marty made this guy lamb tonight.
Yeah.
Lamb.
You guys ever had lamb?
No.
That was my first time ever having lamb.
I've never had. When Marty comes over to my house, he makes me mac and cheese with hot dogs in it. He says, be happy I did that for you, pal.
You're a lucky kid.
You show up, and he's like, hey, Steve, get the lamb. You'll like this piece. I said, Nate, you come as much as you want. You drive up as many podcasts as you want.
Yeah.
Oh, the macaroni and hot dog. That is great, man. I used to crush that after wiffle ball for the first 15 years of my life.
Champion right there.
But the point being, we rekindle podcast idea. Let's do it. You were in Venezuela this year, right? Dominican this year. Sorry. You were in the Dominican this year, so you were I remember one time I texted you, I was like, dude, let's do a podcast. You're like, bro, I'm in the Dominican. I'm like, oh, sorry, dude. Well, call me back when you're in the States, And then we kind of connected. And so then it was like, okay, Orf, now you're back in the States. Let's jump on a podcast. Didn't think much of it. I actually scheduled. We had Renato on Tuesday the other day. And
Humble.
And then Orfie was supposed to be today. He was supposed to be Thursday over the phone, which we do a lot of our podcasts over the phone. And so didn't think much of it. Tell Nolan, hey, here's our calendar. Here's our segments. Here's our piece of it. We're gonna have him on Thursday. And this guy calls me up. Sorry, I got sidetracked because Tony just continues to stare at me right now. For people who see this on the video, he just continues to stare at us.
How we doing, boys?
But so we put him in the calendar, and I remember talking to Steve. I go, hey, on Thursday we have Orf over the phone. This will be this part of it. Boom, boom, boom. And over the weekend, Nate, he calls and goes, dude, I gotta drive up. And I didn't think much of it at the time, you know? I didn't think much of it at the time. It was more of a, okay, yeah, tight. We're not gonna not have fun with you, right? And he gets up here and he says, I didn't want to do a podcast with you guys over the phone. I wanted to do that live. And it still didn't hit me until each day you just kept getting deeper and deeper into how cool friendships are, right? And you get to this moment where we're finally having the podcast and you go, wow, like, I'm so pumped that you made that choice. Like, I am so pumped that we didn't do this over the phone. Like, I am jacked that we just spent that whole week together because we've done some amazing things. We've had great conversations. And Steve, you've said to him multiple times, it's like we just picked up where we left off. You haven't seen this dude in 8 years.
That's how you know it's real.
Yeah.
And I think that story has to be shared because I didn't know until today, really, earlier today, what you were even like saying. You know, like I didn't really comprehend how important it was that you had to drive, that you drove up here. To me, it was just like, cool, man. The guy's in his off season. You know, why wouldn't he drive up here? You know, he's probably twiddling his thumbs.
Not doing anything
yeah, like
home,
okay, yeah,
you know,
like
just
yeah. If you're fine,
breaths.
If you're fine with us just kind of working and doing our thing, like yeah, we'll hang out at night and watch a movie or something, whatever. But then as the week goes on, you go, wow, like that's important. So I think that as we get into the depths of this conversation, into this podcast, I have to acknowledge the lesson I learned from the week of how important that is, how important human connection is, how important it is to be in the presence of other people, how important that is to have that. When I have a talk with you, I want to talk to you. You know what I mean? I want to look at you. I want to be with you, and I think that's really cool because it's so easy to not do that. You know what I mean? Like it's so easy to not make that trip to go see a family member, which I know, and you can talk about it or not, but like Steve's been hammering us about goals over at MASH a lot lately, right? A lot of people have been sprinkling in all these ideas about how like their lives have this momentum. And then subconsciously on like the back end of that sentence, they always go, I think it's because it's journaling, or I think it's because I'm writing down goals. But like enough people have said it to the point where you go, well, shit, I mean, it probably is. You know what I mean? Like we're writing down what we want to accomplish. We're writing down what we want to do as a team. We're writing down what we individually want for our families, our friends, our teammates. And I just think about that. It's crazy because Steve has said, I want to go see my family, you know, twice a week. And then he goes there all the time now, you know, and it's cool. We were looking at videos of his nephew before we went on the podcast.
Shout out Big E.
Big E, boy, that
you're
guy's
looking good, man.
That
Big and strong. Keep
that
it
guy's
up.
the first ever high school lineman as a 2-year-old, dude. This guy's, you know,
Here's the deal, everyone, and we'll get to Nate Orf, but for a second to give a shout out to Big E in case I go down early, which we all figure I'm going to.
Yeah,
could happen.
When Big E signs his national letter of intent to Arkansas State, okay, as a
ASU,
guard,
baby.
I'll be looking down on him. I'll say, Big E,
yeah.
I saw this coming, big boy.
Uncle
Called it
Steve
early.
Proud.
Yeah, to understand this, Big E's 8 months, and he is in 1-year-old plus outfits only.
There's nothing small.
His tags say 1+.
1+.
One
This
plus
dude
on this
is
guy.
a big boy. Okay, so if you guys are looking out for the next big offensive tackle
Hit me up,
recruit, you're looking at Big E, class of 2045. That sounds a little late, but Big E, Everett Ficklin, Arkansas State. It's a guarantee. You watch out for that NLI.
Market.
I can't wait for Orf to start talking, Mark. You get so excited. I love listening to you talk.
I know. Was that all right, Noel? Was that too much?
Start over.
What? Start over?
No.
Oh, geez. I was going to say, I don't know if we've ever started over.
No.
We just got to deal with the consequences.
Yeah.
Was that too much? I apologize if it was. I just was
Mark,
thinking.
let
you
me
know,
jump in for a
thinking some
second,
things.
Nate,
Thought that was
and
cool.
you'll have your time, Nate. Okay.
Yeah.
But Mark, what you just did was beautiful, and whatever Nolan said, that's why Nolan's behind the
been messing
camera.
with me. He's
That's
been
why
messing
Nolan's
with me all
behind
day.
the camera.
Boys,
He's been
But
messing
here's
with
what
me
I
all
want
day.
everyone to understand here is that
Shout out to Nolan. He's good
while,
at his job,
while
man.
Marty has a tough exterior, you know, he's got a heart of gold. So I'm going to take over now so we can
Yeah.
get Nate involved because
Sure.
Harvey's his heart of gold is going right now. He's emotional. I love that about him. He
Nostalgic.
cried this week at MASH. We'll talk about
Whoa,
that in a
easy,
minute.
buddy.
Yeah, let
But
it all out.
We'll talk about
You know?
that in a minute. But Nate, Introduce yourself to our listeners.
Oh, well, I think Harv covered just about everything.
Everything about you.
No, so, man, I mean, do I give like cliff notes?
What I would
Nate
like
Orf
for
or
you to
what?
do is just introduce yourself and tell the group how you got involved with the M&M boys here.
Yeah. All right. Well, Minnesota's a cold place. Learned that. Got the sock hat on, the turtleneck, flannel inside, blanket over the lap.
Blanket over, yeah.
So, yeah, man, I mean, I'm from St. Louis originally, and, I'm a ball player. I'm lucky to be 28 and still be a ball player, and I think we all go through kind of the same life. I don't think life's easy for anyone. So, I think we all go through the same troubles, or we're all in the battle, in the fight. And I got to play with Steve back in 2009 and 2010 and summer league in 10. And Steve, actually, I mean, you were my host on my recruiting visit to Chicago.
That's right.
And this guy, I mean, to get right at it, I mean, Steve was a freshman All-American his freshman year. I commit to this school, and right away, Steve opened my world up to the fact that I could go to this school and be a freshman All-American, because of what Steve did. And then sure enough, I mean, it was a tough year for me, but at the end of the year, I was a freshman All-American.
How cool is that?
So, oh, yeah, I mean, so.
Whoa, hold on. I'm sitting next to 2 freshman All-Americans.
That's right.
Is that a first for you, kid? How you feel?
Intimidated.
Isn't that cool, though? I actually remember him being on his recruiting visit and just talking to him about, like, what UIC was like and how it was different. Like, it's a different school, but for him, like, he had an opportunity to make it whatever he wanted to make it.
Yeah.
And at that time, obviously, I figured that I was going to be a first-round draft pick. I was oblivious to the world.
Yeah.
Which was great. Mm-hmm. I loved it. But that's the power of positive thinking, right? Because he came in and he thought that same exact thing, and look what he did.
First-round draft pick of free agency. Yeah,
he was a freshman All-American his first year. Keep going, Nate. That is so cool. That's such a cool story.
It's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, it is, and I'll give Steve one more minute here, but I mean, even on my recruiting visit, he was one of the guys that, we went to the college party, same recruiting trip I think every athlete has. Mm-hmm. We went to the college party, but the way Steve lived his life was different than, a lot of the people there, and that just again set the tone that no matter what, you can still make your own decision. And as an 18-year-old, or at that time I guess 17-year-old, that sets the tone. That means a lot for the foundation of who I am and who we are, to see something like that at that age. And so and that's one of the reasons when Harv said Steve's going to be on there, it's that kind of stuff that I'm like, I'm not doing that over the phone. Like, yeah. I'm going to look this guy in the eye and be like, and you probably don't know that stuff. Like, you don't know how I think.
Yeah.
You don't know that when you were a freshman All-American, that opened up my world to what I might possibly be able to achieve. And it instantly became a goal for me, and that's, it's freaking awesome.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
Mark, I'm going to need you to take over for a minute here.
Yeah, yeah. No, I got you.
That's really cool.
Yeah,
I think,
that's what it is.
It's just crazy how moments like that, you can clear as day remember that and feel that, right? And so when you talk about, well, I haven't seen a guy in 8 years or whatnot, or done this in 8 years, it's just like there's a feelable. Steve talks about all the time of like your body language speaks or your choices speak, and then how much you can influence somebody in a moment forever. And so now we have this part where which
is also a scary thing.
It is,
and it's also like a humbling, like, you better check yourself, and you better be on your game, because especially, I mean, you guys dealing with, I mean, just hundreds of people every week, it puts a lot more responsibility on you guys, knowing that they might see one thing that you did one time this month, but but that's all they can remember. It
resonates with them.
So not to like put any more pressure on you guys.
No, you're right. You're right though.
Lives,
you are right though, because, and I think so as a group, And what Orfy's talking about, so what we do with MindStrong and MASH and MASH Performance and a lot of the young athletes that we work with and coach with, like you are, man, like they're molded minds, and it doesn't matter. We just talked before we pressed play, we talked about how, man, when I was 23, I thought I was old. And I think you said, Steve, when I was 18, I thought I was old.
Mm-hmm. I did.
And like we're 29, 28, 29, 30 right now. Like when,
young.
Yeah, when we're
Ready.
when we're like 50, when we're 50, we're going to say, dude, when I was 29, I thought I was old. I'm sure. I mean, I don't know. I'm not 50 yet. But
I hope.
Yeah, hopefully we're 50 someday. You know, who knows? And we can listen to this and laugh and go, what a bunch of dummies. But the point
gonna
is,
happen.
yeah,
No
it
doubt.
will go. It will happen, I'm sure. And so you look at that and you go like, that's nuts, man, because that was, you know, a long time ago that you two, you feel that, and that connection is there. Like, and so you have these young minds, you have these young people, and I do know, and we've talked a lot about this the whole week. But when you're speaking to people, I think the one unique thing about our unit is we have reflective conversations about do you think this is okay that I said this person? And then sometimes you say something to a group of kids and you challenge them, and you're scared that I challenge them too much, and you need a guy like Steve or Nolan or Tony or guys who are, or Nate and guys who are at MASH and MASH Performance and MindStrong and stuff that like go, no, like that's what they needed to hear. You know what I mean? Because you do second guess your choices from time to time when you're on your own, because you acknowledge like where you were at that time in life, like how you were influenced at that time in life. And so I think, you know, like that's crazy to me, because I look at it and it could be the other side of it. Like you were obviously the right person at the right time to have Steve as your mentor, your like college visit guy, because truthfully, that would have bothered me. I would have been the opposite. If Steve would have been my college visit guy and not wanted to have a beer or two and been the opposite, I would have been mad. Like I probably wouldn't have gone there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so it's just crazy to think about, you know, like how the other side of it could have been. Like I probably wouldn't have gone to UIC if that's what it was going to be like. And I think back to some of my college visits, and I go, man, I almost went to schools for the complete wrong reasons, right? But wherever you are in that point in your life, you know, it's just an interesting part, because who molded you? You know, who molded you to think like that? Like, what environment were you in to make you think like that? When I think of it as one of the things that I've respected you and admired you for, and we talked about this while we were cooking dinner, and that ring right there was the donuts that the cookies that the boys just keep pumbling out.
Donuts.
And barreling it in. We should get some donuts as well as cookies.
True.
But when I told, my mom thought I was crazy when I was coming to Minnesota years ago. And she was like, why are you going to Minnesota MASH? Like, you got all these other things you could do and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, well, I don't know, Mom. Like, I'm going to go hang out. I'm going to go work with Steve. Right? And she was like, well, why is that? You know, well, being a mom, being safe and secure. And I was like, I don't know. I just always won with this guy. Like, I don't even know, like, what the formula for winning was or is, but we just always won. Right? So it's like, it goes back to the same way you and I know each other as, like, high-end, pushing, challenging each other people. Yeah. So when he drives here from St. Louis, 15 minutes into it, dude, like, yeah, we did the hugs. I love you. I miss you. How's everything going? 15 minutes into it, we're going, what's going on? You know, what are you doing right now? How's life? You know what I mean? Where are you thinking? Where's your mind at? How are you eating? How are you sleeping? What are we going to do? And then this guy's got a weighted vest on me, and we're crushing pull-ups and push-ups and sweating our bag off. Waste, yeah, trying to get it going. And it's just like, that was your off day, right? And like, I don't lift like that. I mean, I try to every now and then, but I work out so I can handle it, but it was like, that was our connection. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? So like when you talk to Steve, like you talk to Steve and you give him props to that was your connection.
Oh yeah. And
so now the reflection of all that is, think about the people that you're surrounded with and how you're connected with them, right? Like I want to be connected with a guy like you, and you want to be connected with a guy like Steve. From those like initial thoughts, like at that point in time, what was the person that you brought to another relationship? You know what I mean? I tried to tie that into how I took your guys' conversation, how I think through it. But like right now, why would somebody come to you, right? Like, why would somebody talk to you?
I think that's a good way to see it, is if for everyone else, like if we ask someone to come or like be on a podcast, have I lived my life in a way that they would want to come do it in person? I think that is kind of a cool way to look at it too. Like is my decision making and impact on the people that I'm around great enough that they want to come, they want to be with me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that's kind of a cool way to look at it. And again, I just the way I see things is probably, kind of different, or a little even like heavy or deep, but I like to just kind of take things like deeper and deeper and kind of try to find roots, and the way that just makes me feel more accountable for like how am I live. Like, I play with maybe 100 guys this year, between spring training, the season, going to Dominican, and you know what I mean? So it's like the way I see it is, I have all of these teammates, and I have a responsibility to treat them in a certain way and leave their certain mark on them. And that's why I think that's kind of a cool thought, like how many of those guys did I treat in a way that they would, if I called them, they'd be like, yeah, like I would love to do that with you. I think it's kind of cool.
That is cool. Elegantly, I've used the word elegant a lot this week.
And that's a big one for a ball player right there.
Well, I spent the first 2 weeks saying it in front of a mirror. But once I felt confident enough about it, I started pouring it out into the public. But I think elegantly, like how simply put you just made that, is something that everyone could use, right? And it's not, you talk about it in sports, but like as a coach or as a teacher, as a friend, as a spouse, whatever it is, what would somebody like? What are the conversations that somebody would have with you if you weren't in the room and you had to think of two people who you know, and someone walked in and said, "What do you know about this Steve McGuiggan guy?" What would those two people say?
And there's nothing better like Tony, like Vaca coming here. For anyone who's listened to a couple of podcasts with Tony on it, Tony got here and he just said, "Hey, I heard you're a pretty good guy." And that's like, is there any better compliment in the world?
Did you know him before?
Not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all. But he comes in and he goes, "Hey, I hear you're a pretty good guy. Let's be buds."
Same.
Now we're best of buds,
man. Like I don't know Tony Vaca.
Pour yourself a glass of wine on there, Vaca.
I've played with enough guys over the course in the baseball world is so small that I've played with all these guys that are like the name Tony Vaca just pops up.
100%.
And instantly, like, I met this guy for the first time a couple days ago, and I'm like, Tony Vaca's my good friend.
Yeah. And for anyone who's listening that doesn't understand baseball guys, like, one thing I really do respect about baseball guys is they will tell the truth. Like, if you ask a guy, like, "Hey, what do you think about so-and-so?" They'll be like, "Bad teammate,
they'll
bad
bury
dude.
You. You'll get
they
buried.
Will bury you
will
fast.
get buried.
Yeah.
So if you're getting a report, like if you come up and you're like, "Hey, what'd you hear about this guy? What do you know about this guy?" And they go, "Great guy." You immediately, as a baseball player talking to another baseball player, you go, "For sure."
And
good
those
guy.
guys, and the thing, the thing about that,
so true. Too.
Especially,
so
for
true.
like younger listeners, the thing about those guys that people have bad things to say, they're out of the game quick. They're either out of the game quick, or they're so good they're at the very top of the game, and still no one likes them, and the team doesn't win, But for the majority, unless you're the 1%, like the 1% of the 1%, where you're just so talented, you got it no matter what. That guy can make it.
Yeah.
But we've all played with just so many guys, and the guy that if someone asks about his name, whatever, and everyone has bad things to say about him, that guy's out of the game.
Out of the game. And I want to give everyone some context here. So I do want to get back to talking about you real quick, just so, because I know that we're going to be fluid, right, with the three of us, that we're going to want to talk about things like that. But let's just go back for 1 second. You're at UIC.
Yeah.
You're a freshman All-American.
Yeah.
You're extremely successful. You go to the Northwoods League, play for the Eau Claire Express.
Yeah.
Win a national championship. Take us through this part of the journey.
Oh, man. This was one of the most like defining parts of my journey, and I think at this time is what makes me saying I'm going to drive up there. It makes that easy, almost, drive up here for the podcast is what I'm saying. So, 2010, everything honestly is good. Never thought about transferring once, right? And then 3 weeks before school starts is like when it was. It hits me and I pray on it, and it's like boom, boom, boom. 3 weeks later, I'm at Baylor.
Crazy.
And this is crazy to have the conversation with Steve, because I sat down at a picnic table with Steve, who, again, like going back, like this is a guy that when I signed to play with a guy like Steve. And when I got to college and watching Steve work in the weight room, I'm like, that's a guy I look up to. And the next thing you know, 2 years later, I'm sitting at a picnic table saying, Steve, man, well, I'm transferring. And that was a tough conversation. But it was what I had to do. Why? Because that's what I felt. And I feel like instincts, I prayed on, I felt led to make this move. And the one thing that, if I could pump my own tires, I guess, I wasn't afraid to do it. And that was a hard decision. But not being afraid has taken me to, where I've been since. And it was just a crazy part of my journey. And it's crazy to look back and see how that was probably one of the hardest decisions I had to make. For sure. To leave the comfort of kind of a normal life, I would say. And then to have to make similar decisions like that just time after time after time ever since. And it really has just kind of set the tone and created this acceptance of the tough decision, whether it's relationships, sacrifices, other sacrifices for the game, or whatever it is. But there's so many tough decisions that we have to make that making that decision and having work out how it did has just it's allowed me to say, like, just go for it.
Mm-hmm.
Go. And that is kind of cool to look back and think about now, because that makes, and we were talking about this before we started recording, but I told him, I'm like, Steve, like, I can think of a few reasons why, I don't want to do something, but at the end of the day, like, I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for everyone that's listening, the crazy part for me is, like, you don't really think about this until you're in front of somebody, but one of the last time I talked to Nate in person was pretty much him getting on a bus and going to Baylor.
Yeah.
Again,
we won the national championship that year, and I missed that game.
Crazy.
I don't know if you guys remember that.
So what's happening? What's happening right now is crazy, because Nate's never heard this part of the story from, like, the after effect of him leaving. So, like, when Nate leaves, so everyone who understands, and you guys are going to hear about his story and, like, how cool it is and how proud everyone who knows him is of him. But when Nate was leaving, there's just such a mutual respect on work ethic and what he brings to a team and what he can help a group of people that you love accomplish, right? So when you're a kid, and he was, what were you, probably 19? Yeah. I was probably 21, 22 years old.
Right. I was at 20, yeah.
Anyone who played college baseball before, that's your entire life at that point in time.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that's all that you know. So I knew that we had this piece who was a great human, great person that we needed to be successful. And I felt like at the time that he spoke to me when I was 22 years old or 21, I felt like a failure, because this was a kid on my team that I viewed as my team that I needed to take care of, to the point where he felt like he could be successful there. And if I couldn't get one of our best players to believe in that.
So now you're kind of insecure a little bit.
Now I'm thinking, what did I do?
Yeah.
So
you were the leader of that team,
like, what did
my
you do
first
wrong?
year there.
Yeah, and so I'm thinking, what did I do over the course of this career
to
get this guy to think that he can't accomplish everything that he wanted to
Sure.
over the course of his life. And the funny thing is that Nate's first year was the worst year of my life mentally. I was an absolute disaster for everyone at home.
It's a tough one for the guy.
Tough one for the kid. Coming off a great season, come back, high expectations, like preseason player of the year in the league, and just tanks. You guys haven't seen a tank like this.
Yeah.
Like, so bad, hitting 230 like the whole year.
But that's so funny, man. I remember you having a tough year. You know, like Steve's the guy, like the preseason stuff. Like it's, you know, and I remember him having a tough year, but I don't remember one negative thing about your play at that time.
Well, that's cool.
You know, and that's, yeah,
but
I just don't see that.
What I want to make sure, and this is more personal than podcast
sure.
at this point.
I'll just, grab another bottle of wine.
Yeah, is that
or box.
what he needs to know? And this is why I love doing this. This is why when Marty asked me to do this stuff, that I love it, because it's about personal connection, human connection. This is why we do this.
Right.
It was purely out of the fact that I knew that this was a special human. And losing a special human is always tough.
Because there's one less special human.
And there's not a lot of them.
There's really not.
No.
So,
not saying me, but yeah.
Well, I'm saying
in
you.
the world.
Well, no, I'm going to say you.
Fair enough.
Okay, so this guy goes to
louder,
Baylor.
say louder.
This
Yeah,
guy
what
goes
I
to
missed the last.
this guy
You're
goes to
Harvard.
Baylor, and what he doesn't probably realize, even to this point, is that I was cheering for him. Like, I was completely cheering for him, because his only experience was him telling me, "Hey, we're not going," and I'm dumb enough to think that we were going to win a national championship.
Sure.
Like, that's how my brain works.
Yeah,
right.
weren't even
So,
close. Right.
yeah. Well,
not-
thanks.
it's not dumb,
well,
man.
we were all right.
That's all. That's all we
that
got.
bad.
That's all you got.
That's all you got. So, one, who you guys are listening to, and the part of this story that's going to get really fun is, truthfully, what's coming up now.
Right.
So this is a fun moment for me and Nate, which we'll probably hug about after this.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
now you're at Baylor,
Yeah.
and talk about just the life-changing experience that this created for you.
Yeah. So, like I said, one of the toughest things I had to do was make that first decision or whatever to go, and I get there, and originally I wasn't supposed to have to redshirt because I was switching majors, was my understanding, and then through the fall I was informed that I was going to have to redshirt, so I mean nothing about the move made any sense at all, like zero. I was paying
Besides the fact that
like,
it was the right move.
right. Yeah, we were paying like $3,000 I think to go to UIC, and then I walk on to Baylor, which private school, like all this, and then like nothing about it made any sense, and I redshirt. At the end of my redshirt, first of all, that redshirt year was it was probably the biggest year of my life athletically, because the strength coach down there, Robbie Little, shout out to Rob, he's still one of my like best friends, mentors. Talk to him more than pretty much anyone. He took me as, I'll never forget this, in the fall when we first started, I was with you guys, I was a catcher. Like that's what you probably still see me as a catcher.
I do.
Which is crazy because I haven't done that in forever.
Yeah, when I heard you were playing other positions, I think I texted Mart and I said, "What is this guy? Who does this guy think he is?"
Yeah.
So that my first fall at Baylor, I ran a 7.260, right?
Not fast.
Which
Mart,
is-
what did you clock in at?
The fastest 60 I ran was a 7.21. But I ran on average, I was about 7.4, 7.5.
I was
Yeah.
more of a 6'7" guy.
Yeah,
I ran 7.8 in high school.
that's quick.
But literally my arm is lightning
So
quick.
much better than
Yeah,
mine.
it's better than yours right
So-
now.
So that redshirt year again, man, and I think the way I see life and the world is like I just see like the easy choice is always so much more appealing than the hard choice. It just is, and anything like eating, I mean workouts, like anything, like the easy choice is right there in front of us, and it's tempting and it's easy to take, but what I just find the hard choice is so much more rewarding in every aspect, and so I say that because that redshirt year working with Rob, he took me from a 7.260 runner, and he made me into a really good athlete and by the end of that spring, I was running a 6.7, which is drastically different. He taught me how to run.
It's game changing different for people who don't understand that.
That's moving.
They're trying to think. If you think of the NFL Combine, I don't mean to cut you off. People need to understand that.
Yeah.
The NFL Combine, when they run their 40s and run like a 4.3 or 4.4, and you make yourself a millionaire. If you run a 4.7, you're out of the spot, right? In baseball, if you run like a 7.2 plus anything after that, you're considered slow at that level of baseball. Professionally, Division I, if you don't run under a 7.2 and you're a positional player, you're slow.
So 6'5", I was always told. So I was a 6'7" guy my whole life.
Yeah,
you're bad.
But 6'5" and under was what you needed to be a tool. So
yes.
Nate was a borderline tool runner at this point in his life.
When I got there and I was slow.
And
he's almost a tool runner.
And some people will comprehend how much you shaved off from a 7.2 to a 6.7. Like that is in a 60-yard dash. That's like what, like that's like 10 yards, 15 yards.
I don't know if it's that far, but it's far. It's far. It's a lot.
Feels like it. I don't know.
So
that's because you were always there, just
I was bad.
Full effort
I used
sprint.
to yell.
Full chug. Yeah. Just two arms.
I ran an 8 one time at a pro day.
Looking to the sky, hoping for
pulled
the best.
pulled the fake hammy. This grass, skip, cut the grass, damn it.
Let the scouts know that it was your leg's fault.
Yeah,
it's not who you are.
Wait until I throw. That's why I used to say, well, I ran the 60. Wait till I throw. Go on, sorry.
So one of the things about my trainer Rob down there is he kind of helped develop this work ethic. And since I was a redshirt, sometimes after a home game or something, I'd be like, Rob, like, what do you got for me? And he's this like crazy leader and human being. He's one of the few people that that I'm lucky enough to get to meet that is just so different from the rest of the world. And so he would just give you a look and be like, let's go. And he would take you through, whatever. He's a creative guy, really good with workouts and stuff. And we would just go to work, man. And really, so that redshirt year, I had no like fun time necessarily. No games, no reward. There was zero reward that year. But he taught me to just do it. He didn't tell me what we were doing. We just did it.
So I want to ask you, because I'm very curious. How old are you during the redshirt year?
I'm 21 that year.
So you're 21 years old. You always had aspirations of playing Major League Baseball, right?
Oh, yeah.
That had to have during your college career, you had to have, I want to get drafted and play professionally.
Yeah.
So,
my first scout talked to me after my freshman year at UIC, and he was like, keep up what you're doing. And at that time, that was a big deal.
Right.
So I'm from a small town, it was that was a big deal for me to even.
Well, I look at that as, because people get redshirted or they sit out or they don't play much early, right? So like you get to a new level of anything in life, and if you don't have success at it right away, like that's okay, right? Because that's expected. Like you two, I'm sitting next to two freshman All-Americans at a Division I level, but you're not, like, that's like an outlier, right? Like you're not supposed to have success as a freshman.
No.
So to even contribute as a freshman is a lot, and then to be an All-American is like an outlier. Like that's an outlier mentality. It's an outlier experience. You're counted on. You're an actual like contributor to your team's success at a young age. So now, what's crazy to me to hear this story and is to know years after that, you're redshirting at the same level that you were an All-American at. You're not playing years after you had already proven that you can dominate this level. Now, obviously, the NCAA and things like that, you couldn't eligibility-wise.
Right.
But to comprehend sitting in a dugout and lift and work out and train and just do it, as you said, the strength guy would make you do, it comes back to the sense of, like, how did you do that, dude? Like, how did you weather that storm? You make this move that makes no sense. Then you go there, you're in the middle, you're with new people, new teammates, new atmospheres, and you're redshirting after you had already proven that you can play this game at this level better than probably the people that were playing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think I got lucky enough to get around another human, Cal Tui, who
Oh yeah, sure.
we all played with. That's crazy.
Lefty stick.
But yeah.
Big dog.
So
dude.
this guy,
Big boy, good looking kid too.
Good looking kid. Good
He's
hair.
probably doing well. Cal, how are you?
Good hair. Good forearms.
So Cal is forever the hardest working guy I've ever met. And when I say hardest working, I mean he is the guy that works in a way that really frustrates you because he doesn't feel pain. So not only does he go through these like tough workouts, like tough workouts and beat you, but he doesn't hurt either. At least he doesn't look like it. He threw up. I saw him throw up twice. I beat him in the only time I ever beat him in an event, we were running, it was like a circuit with the stadium, and we're running a stadium, and he peels off to the side and throws up, and I finished the leg, and I'm like, I just beat Cal Tui, right?
Yeah.
And then the thing about that is
You're in mass compete mode.
I'm jogging to left field, and he beats me to the next station, and then beats me the rest of the day. And so that's the kind of guy Cal was, right? So again, like between Rob, my trainer, our strength guy, and Cal, like my world to working out without a strength coach like yelling at you, or like someone else, like the pressure of the team looking at you, and at that time there's no choice but to lift the weight or to finish the rep, you know what I mean? And these guys pushed me in a way that was it really made me think, like, what do you do when no one's watching? You know what I mean? Like, can you really go as hard as you can when no one's watching? You know what I mean? And that's the stuff that I learned that year. And so one of the ways that I dealt with, like, when the team, went on a road trip, I would get up and be like, I gotta work. Like, I'd wake up, like, go straight to the cage and just hit too much. And I'd work out too much. And I ended up blowing my elbow out hitting that year with 2 weeks left in the season. So, working and training that way, and formulating this mindset of, like, I have got to, like, maximize the time I have and, like, really get after it. And I say that in a way that it's not like a tough guy thing. It's like I'm afraid to waste it. I'm, like, angry, I'm lonely, and I'm gonna take all those, like, emotions, and we're going to the cage, and we're gonna hit for, hours, hit buckets, and just hit and hit and hit. And so that year, and that's why I say that year ended up being one of the biggest of my life to build these foundations and to make that my escape, and to not need anyone else there for me to go get my work in, And still to this day, man, like, I mean, today, like, you guys, we're at the facility, and I needed to get a good training day in, and I left you guys. I mean, my good friends I never get to see, and I'm like, I go do my own thing. Like,
time to work.
That's how I have just came up with the best way that I do what I got to do for me. And I think it's all from that year, that really difficult redshirt year that ended up, I blew my elbow out hitting too much, I'd doing a hitting drill. And then, so that led, I'll roll into it. That led to 2 elbow surgeries. End up DHing my true junior year at Baylor then.
How did the team do the year that you were sitting out?
They did good. They lost in the regional. They lost out. They could have won that thing. They lost out. There's a lot happened that year, by the way. But lost out on a really tough play. Like, tough play.
What game? Did they go 2 in barbecue, or were they in the regional final?
I think it was the final. Like, had the game won, lost out, I believe.
So you have 2 elbow surgeries.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Because we can't figure out what's wrong with it.
Did you have bone chips?
Initially. No, I ended up having Tommy John.
I knew you had
Tommy
Tommy
fixed
John.
it, yeah. But the MRIs weren't showing a tear. So every time, initially I sat out in rehab for 8 weeks.
Oh,
and then
start
throwing,
the growth.
Get back to 90 foot. And every time I got to 90 foot,
it'd start barking
same
at you.
pain.
Yeah.
So I did PRP injections, like, take time out, PRP, rehab it, 90 feet, still messed up, all that. So again, man, that's not a fun time. That's going to the doctor consistently and getting bad news, and no one knows how to fix it. So you don't know, like, am I gonna be all right? Because at this time I'm still a catcher.
So you get TJ.
Have TJ after my junior year, DH my junior year, yeah.
Are you a redshirt junior?
Redshirt junior.
So you go to UIC for 2 years.
2 years transfer.
Then redshirt. So now you're essentially a redshirt sophomore.
No,
but then you have 2 years at Baylor after the redshirt, right?
Yeah.
So now you go to Baylor, you're a redshirt junior.
Right.
And then you play redshirt senior.
Right.
Your redshirt junior year.
DH.
You're DH and coming back from TJ.
And I end up basically, I think I doubled the Big 12 record for hit by pitch.
And
baby.
Your junior.
We're hit by pitch guys.
My elbow was messed up, man.
Yeah.
And so it's one of those, it's another thing, man, that it's how am I going to get the job done? Yeah. And I'm playing on this team that has, Max Muncy was our 3-hole guy.
Sure.
Our 4-hole guy was the Big 12 Player of the Year that year. Catcher got super hot, but I got these talented guys behind me, and I'm like, I literally just have to get on the base and we win. Mm-hmm. And that's how it was. So I crowded the plate, man. I didn't. My elbow it's messed up, and that's the way that I was able to create success that year. And I hit solid, I guess, or decent, whatever you want to say, and along with that contributed with, I don't know how many runs I scored or anything like that, but we won a lot of games, and that was a really fun year.
Tied everything together, didn't it?
Yeah. But also, I'll just say this, that since I got to college, I remember seeing at UIC the pictures of the guys at the regional, at the national anthem. You know what I'm talking about?
It was at Haymarket Park. It was at Nebraska.
Yeah.
That's what they had on all their recruiting questionnaires.
Yeah.
I actually, funny story, Nate, I never told you this. When I got recruited by UIC, they sent me this program, and
Minnesota.
It was of UIC at Haymarket Park. And when I got it, I thought that was UIC's field.
Oh, fair
when
enough.
I went on the recruiting visit, I was like, Dad, this thing's a real deal. They got a big old crowd there.
I'm going to play there.
Yeah, this looks like a good little spot to play. I didn't know that there's going to be high school bleachers behind, which obviously since Curtis Granderson Stadium showed up, it's a lot different. But
yeah, I got to get there and see it.
True story.
Yeah.
I honestly thought that UIC played at Haymarket Park.
That's when Steve
I think it's
knew
funny
where
that you
he
think
was
you're
going
allowed back there.
Yeah.
Interesting enough.
Yeah, that's for another podcast.
Did you play in the Cape?
No.
So you went after that year at Baylor, when you have your redshirt junior year, you have a good year.
I had surgery right after that year.
So you went to, that's what I was trying to pick up on. So you hurt your elbow during the redshirt, but then you DH because they can't figure out what's going on with your elbow.
I had they moved my nerve. I had a surgery, moved my nerve.
Okay.
And did the PRP injections, cortisone, steroids, everything.
And then
steroid injection into the elbow.
Right, not into the ass. So then so that's what happened. So you DH, you have this year, you guys have a great team.
And let me hit that year.
That's what I want to know.
One more time. So I brought the regional thing up with Steve because from like day one of getting to college baseball, it's like regional, like
Omaha, regional,
like everything.
But Baylor's a different story.
No, man, it's still the same because my redshirt year, they were in the regional, almost won it, right?
Sure.
And just lost it, and that, that they lost it at the end of the game.
So even at Baylor, because
thanks.
I always felt like getting to a super was a huge, getting to a super was your ticket, because then it was just you and one other guy.
Wow. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So was that kind of what it was like at Baylor too? It was like get to a super because then anything can happen.
Yeah, because a regional, you got to win a lot of games. You know, baseball, any team can win.
Sure,
you know?
100%.
And that's what happened.
One
That's
of
what happened
sports
our
that that
junior
can
year,
happen.
man. I mean,
Right.
we hosted a regional and we lost game 1.
Thank you.
And so it's like,
Who took you out?
wait a minute. Oh man. Yeah, I don't know. I have to get back to you on that one.
Good for you
That's a
for
long
not
time
knowing
ago.
that. That's hilarious
But
that you don't know that.
so back to like more of the story. Everything's about regional. You gotta like get to the regional, win. Every workout I feel like is like, you know, that's how they inspire you, is like regional. So junior year, we host a regional. Really good year. You know, team's awesome. All the, you know, college stuff, fantastic. We win the regional and just go nuts, celebrate with all the guys. Like, this is it. This is the moment been waiting for. Like, dream come true. And then, like, I'll never forget, like 5 minutes later, I'm like, wait, like that was it, you know? Because just how time goes, and we look for, you know, I have a tattoo that's got mountains, and it's got one of my favorite quotes is like, it's the side of the mountain sustains the life, not the top, you know. And one of the reasons I have the tattoo is because of like this concept that I learned by winning that regional, that we got to like the top and it was over in a second, and it was like, it's so unfulfilling. Like, the success as we see it in this life is so like unfulfilling to get like to the top of the mountain. I'm sure in whatever you do, but that was the first time I ever saw that. And that's also helped with, you know, every promotion or whatever ever since, and good years, or, you know, whatever.
Well, you even mentioned that about the big leagues.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's over.
You get the call to the big leagues,
Yeah.
and the next day you go, well, that'll never happen again.
Yeah. And I didn't realize that till the other day, that looking back, we were meditating and trying to like think back to like that biggest moment of like joy, or, you know, of fulfillment that we can like reach back to, and we're trying to channel that in our meditation we're doing.
Yeah.
And I look back at that moment when I got called up, and I'm like that's it. And then I'm thinking about it, I'm like, man, why am I looking at a past event like that heavy, knowing that I'll never have that feeling of getting called up for the first time again.
Mm-mm.
You know? And then which makes you just think like super deep of like, well, then what's the point? Like, then what's next? What's the next thing I'm trying to achieve or go to, you know?
Yeah.
And it is even the next thing that I want.
Right.
Does it even matter enough to see it, to see something else that way again?
So, and I want, going off what you're saying, we've had a lot of talks about this week, but to go to your quote, I think that the point would be, what peaks are you after? And that the side of the mountain is the sustainability, and then once you get to that peak, instantly you got to find your next peak that has a sustainable side, right? Like, it's never about getting called up to the big leagues. It's not about the big leagues. It was the side of the mountain that got you to that peak. And now you have another mountain range. So if you stop trying to find mountain ranges, if you stop trying to climb mountains, then you get unfulfilled. You know what I mean? Because one question that I've always had is, if you ultimately, let's say you win the World Series next year, right? You play Major League Baseball, you win the World Series. I've always wondered this. Like, if once you win the World Series or the Stanley Cup or the Super Bowl, like, why else would you want to play the next year? Like, because what else would you want to play? I've always wondered that. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah.
Now you're trying to become a legend.
But
Right.
yeah, but
That's
there's
what these guys think, though.
but there's no end, dude. Like, there's no end, because
for trying to achieve that. But I mean, I think that makes, you know, us think like, I think everyone wants simply to be happy, healthy, you know, and like have a good life,
yeah,
you know, and like that's it.
period.
But it's not that easy. And I think that, like, for me, like, that's my, like, you know, life goal or journey, is just to like reach that point where I don't need to feel like I need to, you know, set a goal for next year that's like super heavy that I got to chase. You know, my goal in life is like to find that way to just like be fulfilled and happy like in the moment. And I'm talking like deep down, like
right.
Like
well, wouldn't that be the side of the mountain?
Well, yeah. I mean, you're probably right on right there.
Well, I don't know if I am or not.
You could be.
I think it's the top of the mountain. See, I think that what you guys are saying is basically what everyone says their entire life is you need to enjoy the journey, right? Is basically what you're trying to say. But what people don't do, just like many things in life, is they don't say, okay, I need to enjoy the journey, right? They say, I need to enjoy the journey, I need to enjoy the journey. And then they go into work and they start working and they work and they work and they work and they work. And nobody has the ability to be in the middle of work and step back and go, how cool is this, man? This is super cool.
Yeah.
What I'm doing right now is super cool. Like the journey that I'm having, like being here at Baylor, like this new experience and competing just in conditioning. How cool is this? Like the mindset I'm in. Look at this stadium that I'm playing in.
Yeah.
Most people can't do that.
Yeah.
And if people started doing that more and more and more, they would enjoy every single day so much more.
And it's hard.
Right?
It's really, really
super
hard.
But here's the thing, and this is what I want to tell people about, because I will say I actively get myself to do those things and to step back and say, this is so cool, I'm enjoying this. But if you do that, it doesn't minimize the moment when you reach the top. It doesn't minimize it. Like enjoying the process, enjoying what you say, being on the side of the mountain, and that's such a cool quote. I've never heard that before. Yeah. But just because you enjoy trying to get to the top doesn't mean getting to the top is going to be any less. But what you're saying is people try to chase, and the majority of the time they're climbing the mountain, and they get to the top of the mountain, they go, okay, this is it, now what? Well, if you in the process of it are enjoying it and you reach the top, you're going to be that much more fulfilled.
I mean that's like what it's all about.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like, dream come true. Like when I'm, hopefully live a long, healthy life, and like at the end of it, hopefully you can look back and be like, man, I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that. It was crazy. I made some crazy, bold decisions and lived this crazy life, and I loved every second of like the valleys, the peaks, all, you know what I mean?
Sure.
And like I mean, I think that's like the end goal of getting to walk this earth.
Well, and that's the crazy part, because like I know, like I've been around Mart a lot. Like me and him, when you're telling your story and you're going through this process, like we're sitting here like, oh my God, this is so cool. And now all I'm hoping is that you felt like this journey was as cool as it is when you talk in a microphone and say, here is my story. Like, I hope you can conceptualize, like, this is so cool what my journey is, and like what I went through and where I came from, a small town, and I go to a mid-major and I transfer to Baylor and I redshirt and I get injured and I DH, and then we go to a regional and I'm unfulfilled, and then I get signed, and I won't give too much away, right? But there's more to this story.
I won't tell for how much yet.
but which I'm very excited to talk about the commercial that you did.
You did a commercial?
Whatever it was.
When did you do that?
Oh, yeah. We got hey, Marty, we got a commercial guy. We got a commercial guy.
You hungry? I'll grab you a Snickers.
So, one, I will ask this. Yeah, that's a little foreshadowing here, and I hope everybody goes and watches that video. But for you, do you think that you have been able to enjoy the journey realistically? Obviously, not every moment's perfect, but have you enjoyed it?
At times, and I think the longer I'm in it, the better I am at that. But like back to my freshman year, freshman All-American, man, that was one of the hardest years of my life. I hit 429. That was one of the hardest years of my life.
That is crazy.
But coming out of high school, I didn't know you weren't supposed to hit 429.
Sure. You're oblivious.
I didn't know until Mac, one of our coaches, at the end of the year, we stopped at a gas station. He looks at me and he goes, congrats on your year. You don't know what you just did. And he was so right. I didn't know. I mean, that was great. That was the hardest year. I didn't enjoy it barely at all. Right? I hit 429 freshman All-American. So telling the stories like, yeah, he had a good year, I guess.
Well, good for you, because I enjoyed the hell out of my freshman year. I had a heck of a time.
But
I had a great time.
But I was catching, and there was a lot of failure behind the plate, and it was tough. And we had some some tough Monday practices because of the way catching was over the weekend.
For sure.
So I felt this like really intense pressure to perform behind the plate, and it robbed me of some of that joy. And not that it was a bad thing. I'm not saying it's bad at all, but the reality is I didn't get to enjoy that year at all. But I didn't. That's the wrong way to put it.
I know what you're saying,
but I didn't get to just walk through that journey like it was rosy. And I hit 429. I barely got out.
At what age do you feel like you started saying, you know what, I'm gonna, because obviously you're speaking of it in a way where you're aware of it now. So at what point do you feel like you said, was it the regional that you said, you know what, I need to start looking at my life in general in a different way than I do now?
I would say the last probably 3 years is when, and because as soon as you get to pro ball, man, I had just immense pressure to perform and stay healthy, because if I didn't for a month, I'm probably done.
Dunzini.
And that's for rookie ball. I mean, go to high A, same high A. We can get into all that later, but that's just leveling up. Like I have to chase these peaks, because if I don't get there, I'm done. And then you finally, a few years ago, you play around guys that have played in the big leagues. Get AAA, playing with guys that have played in the big leagues, been where you are, or been where you want to be. And for me, it was just like quick to notice, like, these guys are so different than I am. Like, these guys show up to the field 6 hours before a game and just go sit on the couch, have something to eat, start like preparing their body. They have this routine they do every day, and I'm like, and it's not work for them. And that was a big thing. And so that's, I think, when it started to really change for me, when I got to see that. And then after that season, I'm like, I go into the off season, like, I got to make that my lifestyle. Like, I'm not a baseball player anymore that I play, when spring training starts, I'm a baseball player from that day till the season ends. That's when it became, this is going to be your lifestyle. And now, the last 2 years, I've played almost like 200 games each year.
Oh my God.
And it's between spring training, the season, and then going into winter ball. And it's just a lifestyle. And this past year is the healthiest year I ever had.
So let's get there, right? So you're at Baylor.
Yeah.
You guys win the regional, top of the mountain.
Oh yeah. Host a super.
What happens?
Arkansas. Really good series. Like, legitimately a really good series. We crush them the first game. They have
You're one game away from every college baseball player's dream.
Seriously, that's nuts.
Man, we were a ground ball away. Ground ball shortstop booted it, double play. Would have sent us to Omaha.
Stop.
Yeah.
I think I watched that game.
And the thing about shortstop is the guy is so good defensively, in the whole weekend, and the whole year, just made these unreal plays. But that weekend especially was making just crazy plays, keeping us in the games. And then, it's freaking baseball.
Baseball happened.
Booted the double play, lose that game, go to the third game, and it was like 1-0 in 10 innings. Like, so it was this crazy.
I watched that game. I think we watched that game.
Really?
I know I watched that game.
We might have. I remember seeing him with those Bears jerseys on.
Yeah.
It just didn't
Bears
look,
or something, yeah.
Looked a little different.
It was at Baylor, right? Yeah.
So that was just a great series. And I actually lose that game. So season's over, change out of the locker room, walk out, and I got pooped on by a bird.
Really?
So, yeah. What do you got on that?
Heck of a day.
What do you got on that universe message?
Mart, this seems like a question for you, bud.
Am I supposed to go deeper into what I think about that?
Surface level answer, something very witty.
I just lost the biggest game of my life and got pooped on by a bird. I think
you're supposed to feel like shit.
I did, loud and clear.
I think that's what was supposed to happen.
And a week later, I got Tommy John coming in front of me. So that's cool.
You should feel like shit.
So everything's going great.
Yeah.
And what happens next?
Yeah.
Because everyone feels real sorry for you at this table.
Playing a pickup basketball game today, or if I haven't been able to sit, my hamstring's been burning. I'm gonna go buy BioFreeze for the first time in 5 years. Is BioFreeze still a thing?
I don't know. I think it's more icy hot nowadays.
My old man used to throw that on my shoulder when I was 10. Tell me I did it.
Icy hot.
Yeah, you got a shot at this thing.
Shout out.
Jim, if you listen to this, I miss you, bud.
Yeah. So you go NAC. You never played summer ball?
With you guys?
Yeah.
I played with you guys, and then I went to Kansas, the Jayhawk League, after my redshirt year.
Okay.
Because I tweaked my elbow, right?
Yeah.
But I didn't know what an injury felt like. I'd never been injured.
So you don't have to play summer ball after that, after the regional, super regional.
After the super?
Super,
Yeah.
he's graduating.
No,
No, that was the next year.
no.
So after my redshirt year.
Next year.
No, because I had Tommy John. So after that junior year,
How many years did you play?
Hot damn.
2.
Okay,
So after my redshirt year, I go to the Jayhawk League, and I play like 2 games.
I'll talk. You can't hear your ass.
So I go after my redshirt year. after my redshirt year, I go to Jayhawk League, play like 2 games, play this doubleheader, and on a throw down to second, my elbow just.
Oh, that's when it snapped.
But again, I'm like, I don't know, I'm playing. So I finished the game with this totally whacked out elbow, and I go to get in my car and I turn the key and my arm just like collapses and I'm like, and that's when I knew. So
That's when
I mean,
knew.
for real, that was when I knew. So yeah, so then I play my junior year and go straight to Tommy John.
Yeah.
And then, go through that, and then, so I start playing games 7 months out of TJ, which was, I probably wasn't ready, but
Right.
but it didn't matter because that was the last chance I have, to get to where I wanted to go.
So you go back, you hit 377 your senior year at one of the best baseball programs in the country. So you're not
He's no slub.
you're no slub. You do okay. Post TJ. You hit 377. Where did you guys finish in the year that year?
Not good.
You guys didn't do good that year?
No,
So you guys didn't do well after the Supers.
no. Tough
Good.
year the next year.
Good.
And I think when you dive into that,
Next question.
I think when you dive into that, the senior leadership it wasn't there that
It was
year.
not.
When they-
It
And I
was
remember
not.
people talking about that.
Yeah.
A lot of selfish acts.
Should have hit 900.
Yep. And that, something to think about.
I
And
want
so,
to reflect on that one
and
later.
so you obviously you hit 377, decent year. You sign with Milwaukee.
Well, let me take you back real quick, because if we're telling my story, then I can't leave this out.
Well, that's what I'm trying to figure out. There's a lot of years in here.
So I hit, junior year, have Tommy John, go home, rehab, all that stuff. Getting close to being able to play. Right around Christmas time, my parents go through the divorce.
Yep.
Didn't see it coming, right? So
You're 23, right?
yeah.
Yep.
So, I mean, world turned upside down.
Yep.
The whole deal. That's life. And so that happened. So I go into my senior year not only like wanting to have a good year and play pro ball, but I go into that year
Hold on. So that happened before your senior year.
before the senior season at Christmas. Yeah. That was during my senior year, right before the senior season. So
I thought that was in pro ball.
no, that's right before that senior season.
Wow. Okay. Keep going.
So
Man of the
it's-
people you are.
So it's one of those things where, I decide, it's like, am I even going to play baseball anymore? Do I need to stay back with the family?
Yeah,
Like,
you're a mess.
You go through all that.
You're a mess.
And I got like fantastic older brothers always taking care of, the fam kind of, and you're going to play, not even a question, right?
Right.
So I go back to college, and not only do I want to play pro ball and get signed and all that stuff, but now it's like I have to, because like I don't have that like comfort zone at home anymore, right? And so it's like I have to. I can't.
There ain't no turning
I can't
back.
just go home.
Yeah, there ain't no turning
Like,
back.
my I've still never been to the house I grew up in, which is crazy. I mean, someday I'm going to. I want to. I've still never been in the house I grew up in because when I went back to school, they moved out, and I've never been back. So, and that's just kind of shows how it was back home. Like everything changed back home. So not only am I like hungry to have success or a big year my senior year, but I have to, in my mind, and that's how I saw it. It's like there's literally no other option but have a really good year, and I end up hitting 400, over 400 for most of the year, finish at 377.
So much of a super fan I am. I nailed that stat, 377.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe
you could have inflated it a little bit if you ask me, but
400 hitter is what you should have said.
Yeah, they could have rounded up.
Guy drove here from Missouri.
8 hours.
I listen to you when you talk, Orfie.
We'll round up, kid.
See
Hot damn, should have had a couple more doubles. Just one more duck flare, and you would have hit 400.
Ground ball with eyes.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that because I think it opens up a world of questioning in the sense of you lose comfort in a decision that you made where you were already uncomfortable. So now you have these worlds of adversities that's just been blasting you in the face. This is not, for people who are hearing this, this is not in a 10-year span. This isn't in a 15-year span. We're talking about 2 years here. We're talking about 2 years where you redshirt, you get banged up, you have an elbow surgery, which for any baseball player who understands what Tommy John is, that's up there as the top surgeries that you have. It's like having an ACL tear in football. And so you have that. You have your family going back home is no longer an option. And you're a fifth year, which is also, again, you can't gloss over the fact that when you're a fifth-year senior, that is not optimal for playing professional baseball. It's not an optimal state to be in. You've missed your big draft years. You've missed your money years. Doesn't matter how good of a year. You could hit 500, and you don't have to get paid.
Turns out that way.
Yeah, right? But you don't
I
have.
didn't know that.
But
Yeah.
you can dominate. You could be the best player in the country.
Yeah.
And Major League Baseball doesn't have to sign you for anything.
No.
They don't have to give you money. It's not like playing. It's not like getting drafted in the NFL. And if you're in the first 6 rounds, 7 rounds, you get money as a signing bonus. No, like you're going. If you get drafted in Major League Baseball as a senior and you say I don't want to do this, and they go, okay, well then see you later. There's probably a nice little sales job you can go get. That's what they do to you.
Selling Kenmores at Sears.
Exactly. Is Sears even around still? Is Sears around, Tony?
I don't think so.
I don't think Sears is even around. It might be around. I don't know.
If you are, shout out to Sears.
To Sears. Sears
Yeah.
was great. To Sears.
Yeah.
Cheers to Sears. Everyone take
Beautiful.
a sip.
You guys have any extra barbecues? Send one this way.
This cranberry juice is pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And so you get into that. But what I'm curious about is you've talked a lot about fear. You talked about how you used to take swings for a long time. You just go there and hit. And so now you have this fear. What was the fear like then? Like, what was your mindset then? Like, how did you get over that hump and have success on the field, in the classroom, as a teammate? How did you deal with that?
Again, as the only option.
That is a tough guy answer. I love that.
I mean,
But how did you?
You're serious. That's why I love it.
Yeah.
I'm being serious too.
So how have you come to grips with that?
with the situation?
Yeah, like how did you, on your own times, in your own in your own mind, how have you had your biggest, toughest moments and been able to sit there and go, this is my only option? Like, how have you been able to sustain
Because that's your
that?
only option.
I know.
No, I
get that. I
understand.
believe you.
And I don't even like I'm sitting
You
here
can't
like
explain it more than that was
I'm
it.
sitting here thinking about like what we've just talked about for the last 5 minutes, and I'm like, man, I don't have a sob story.
Right.
You know what I mean? And like, you know, that's why I say everyone's life's tough. Like it is. I don't have a sob story.
Right.
I don't feel bad for myself for 1 second. Because
Freaking love it.
I mean, that's the way it is.
I think that needs to be spoken. I think that's why I'm asking you the questions.
Yeah, I mean, we're all in the same boat, man. We're all human. We all go through it, and just reflecting on our last 5 minutes. I'm like, man, surgery tough, like all that, like tough, whatever. Doesn't matter. Like we all have that. We all have the one life. We have one life, and sometimes you only have one option. When I transferred from UIC, I felt so strong about it that staying at UIC wasn't an option anymore. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I think like how'd I get through those tough times is
This is it.
You do it. And I still live life that way. I drove up here, man. I do it.
Yeah.
Let's go.
I freaking love it. I love it. If I were betting in Vegas, I would have bet. I mean, I obviously know you, so it's an unfair bet, biased bet. I would bet that that's what you would say, but I wanted to hear you say it. I wanted that to be said because I think it's so simple, but simplicity scares everybody. Like, dude, shit hit the fan, man. Let's go. Lace them up. I got to hit. Throw me the fastball.
Yeah, I had to. And that's the thing, like, I legitimately had to. My dad owns a concrete business, and I grew up, around it, lucky enough, playing baseball all the time, but I'm like, that's my option,
Yeah.
You either have a good year and get a chance at pro ball, or I go and do that. And that's that's a battle, man. I'm a baseball player.
Yeah.
Like, St. Louis summers and winters pouring concrete, like, that's a battle, man. I'm just a ball player, and so that was my option.
Yeah.
When I say you just do it, that's why, because there wasn't a valid second choice,
So do you think that, and we can continue the story, but you just do it, right? You sign as a free agent. You're a fifth-year senior. You go to the Milwaukee Brewers. There ain't a shot in hell that you should have played Major League Baseball.
Ain't no shot.
There's no way you should have played Major League Baseball, but
That's what they say.
You just do it, right? And you have, dude. You have. I mean, there's a reason why for what we have done and what we want to do and share these types of things is because you have. That's the point of reaching out to you to want to do a podcast, right? And we started the podcast with talking about the gratefulness of us doing this in person, and I believe that there's a reason why we did do this in person, and I'm all in on that. But there's also a reason why we wanted you to be on it, because you have. It hasn't been unnoticed, and I think many people besides the people who are in this room have seen that from you and from years, right? People, your teammates, your family members, friends, people who are going to listen to this, they've seen that. People who know Nate Orf, they know that he just does it. And I know that the guys here, we admire that out of you, obviously. But there has to have been something in your life, because you go through that, you play minor league baseball, and you play AAA baseball for years. You have thousands of games, all this stuff, all the
hoopla.
All the hoopla stories. You get in the big leagues. Your first hit's a home run. It's a storybook. It's a story. It's beautiful. It's an awesome story. But that's
a picture book.
It is. It's a picture book. It's a phenomenal thing. I think it's amazing what you've done.
Let's make some money on it.
But my thing is,
We'll get there.
we will.
That's where the bull comes in.
Yeah. But my point is, I want just like I just asked you, like, how did you do that? And you just said, do it. I want to know, like, what in your life has made you be able to sustain on just do it. Like what can you point your finger on it? Can you touch your finger to when did you build that concrete characteristic about yourself? Like, how do you know that you have that trust in there? Like, I have my assumptions, but I want to know. I want to know if you've even been asked that before.
Definitely never been asked that, but man, I have a kind of a way that I think sometimes, all the time, I'm like, I have like a saying that I'll say to myself sometimes and be like, I'm all I got. And that's the reality. Like, I'm all I got. And it makes making those decisions a lot easier, because it's like my reminder to myself, I'm all I got, but not in a way that, like, I have a great family at home.
Yeah.
I live a great life, man.
Sure.
Like, I am lucky. I got friends all over the world
Right.
that I could call up and be like, hey,
And they take care of you.
and they listen. And
Yeah.
I live a great life. But when I say I'm all I got, that's my reminder of like let's go. Like this matters. Like this, I could take the time off or make the easy choice, and I refuse to live life of regretting the decisions that I made. I refuse to put myself in a situation like that.
I love it. So is that the fear we've talked about all week?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I fear that regret. I feared not making it to the big leagues and seeing myself as a failure. And not that, and we talked about this before. Like I told him, I'm like, I'll straight up, again, I think I'm a different thinker, but I'll straight up lie to myself, knowing I'm lying to myself, but finding fuel in that. And so in telling myself that I'm a failure if I don't make it to the big leagues, that's not, I mean, I know for a fact I have more worth than that in this world.
Right.
And that I will, when baseball's over, I'll find, I think all of our job is to contribute to the world in a positive way, and I'll find that, so to believe that I'm a failure because I didn't make it to the big leagues, I don't believe that for a second.
Mm-hmm.
But that's how I want to train and work and live in the off season and prepare during the season and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's just mastering. I think like when you say I'm all I got, for people who don't know you, you're an extremely selfless human. So it's not a we've talked a lot about selfless versus selfish. So I know you in the sense of I'm all I got, but also how much you give. But does that ever scare you? Do you ever get scared? Do you ever get nervous?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I'm all I got, and then you get nervous.
I live a crazy life. I think I have a lot of like lonely days, a lot of like
that's
lonely
what I would
nights,
yes. Especially with that mentality,
right? But it's finding the reasons why. I mean, it just reminds me, like, you feel lonely and stuff. I mean, I'm huge on perspective, man. I'm huge on perspective, and I follow, and I'm huge into the military and Navy SEALs and Army Rangers, like all these dudes, and watching, their lives and all that stuff, and that's one of my easiest like perspective things to look at for perspective that I have, is looking at these guys, looking at some of the decisions they have to make,
right?
Because that's not, should I transfer college? Like that might be the toughest decision I had to make. Some of these guys have to, and I mean they consistently do, and that's what draws me to these guys and their mental edge they have.
Right.
Is they consistently make this decision that I'll die doing this task, but I'm going to do my job before I die. Right?
Right.
They're willing to die on that mission, but they're going to, like Navy SEAL, like they don't quit. I'm going to at least do my job before I do. And it's like having that kind of perspective. I mean, and constantly just with like I said, my dad, the concrete, the other option, like knowing my brother's out there, working his butt off in crazy heat during the summer when I'm feeling sorry that I didn't get sleep that night, Yeah.
And
I wake up and I go to the field, I drag, and I'm like, dang, he's out there working. I'm like, I'm grinding. I'm a ball player, and that's all I have to do today, So I think having perspective helps me, in all those like the lonely days, the lonely nights, the tough times, and I don't know, I don't believe, one of my other like big things is I don't believe in accidents or coincidences,
right.
So I just feel like nothing's wasted. I feel like those lonely nights, like I feel like the days I'm living now, they're not wasted. I refuse to let my life slip away and be wasted.
I love that.
Yeah.
Do you remind yourself about that or think about that every day?
Not every day, no. I mean, But these are like the things that form who I am.
Right.
So I don't need to think about it every day.
It's a habit.
Yeah. I mean, I told you earlier today, I had this training session, man, and I was exhausted after.
Right.
Right. And you're asking how I'm doing. You're asking if
yeah,
I'm all right. I'm like,
I was mad at you.
I told him later, I'm like, Harvey, that's my life, man. You know, like that's my training day. That's what it's supposed to look like. And I told him afterwards, I instantly got in my car and I just felt this lonely. You know, I had this tough training session. I'm drained. I felt lonely. But like that series of events, like training myself to a point of like, I'm exhausted. I'm done. Like, you think something's wrong with me. And I go through that emotion of I'm lonely, you know, feeling that stuff. Like, that's what I do. That's my decision. Like, that's what I want. That's my only option is to feel that way, put myself in that situation, feel that way, and get it done. And you know, obviously I have a lot more goals ahead. Right. And I'm just getting started, kid.
I know you are, kiddo.
Yeah.
I freaking know you are.
No, you are, butts.
It's cool to hear that, in the sense of where I would compliment you is that it's cool to hear somebody say that when, as a byproduct of watching you, a fan, a friend, all the above, and Steve would agree with this, is that you see that. You know what I mean? Like, I've seen that in you. Like, it's like I'm listening. It's like you and I haven't had this deep. I feel like we haven't had this deep of a conversation of dissecting your brain and your thoughts, but you would see that. You would feel that. You know, and so I just am curious, because it's like you think about, like, what do people think? You know what I mean? Like, what do people think? Because it's crazy how you look at you're around people so often, or you know somebody so well, and you know what they want or what they don't want, and you can read their body language that internally these people are just thinking. You know, and so when you're in that moment, and I'm just speaking to the room here, and I'd be curious to see what everyone thinks about this, but when you're in those moments of loneliness, like, what is that loneliness trying to teach you? What is that loneliness trying to tell you? What is that exhaustion after training? Like, what is that supposed to teach you or tell you? Because we've talked about it all week. Like, yes, you're a professional baseball player, but you also, people are not professional athletes, and they want, or they drive, or they have desires or intentions to do something as much as playing Major League Baseball is to you, right? Does that make sense? So their grind or their struggle is different, but it's not mentally, right? Like, it's not like you're training, you'll train so hard for the goals and the achievement of your baseball desires, but then somebody will do all of that to raise a family. Right. Or like somebody will
and that is like, man, that's like the beauty of the world to me.
Right.
And that's like, anytime I get to talk to kids, or have a situation to talk to, like, a group, I'm like, man, we are all created so differently, but we all have a chance to live out just our best life, and we all have different gifts. And that's like, I was talking to the kids the other day, and I'm like, man, like, if you're good at math, like, be the best mathematician that you can possibly be, you know. So the way I think has nothing to do with being an athlete or a baseball player, right? But it has to do with trying to, and I say it all the time when I talk to people, you know, maximize your potential, because that's what I noticed when I got to pro ball, you know, change positions, all this stuff and so the reality of me making it to the big leagues is so slim. I'm like, you know what? I am going to maximize my potential, and if I fall short, that's the only way I could live with falling short, is if I truly lived in a way to maximize my potential and it didn't happen. And That's the only way that I know that I would be able to say, you know, it's all right.
What did you, when your toughest times in pro ball, which you had it's crazy about this is that prospect wise and everything else, like you're not statistically supposed to make it to the big leagues, but it's not like you're not a great baseball player. You know what I mean? We're talking to a guy who hit 377 at Baylor, played in the Super Regionals, was a freshman All-American. It's not like you haven't tasted success, right? And then you go there and you've had a phenomenal minor league career. I mean, you played great in minor league baseball. You know, like you have proven yourself over and over again. It's like it's weird because you have this stigma as like you're supposed to fail, yet you have this guy who just like you haven't really done bad. You know, like it's not like you've struggled. Yeah, no, nor should you.
Yeah.
Right? But like it's just crazy how like the perception or the speaking is like it's just crazy how we see things because you're not supposed to make it, yet you've just defined odds and you've done well throughout all of it, and your simplicity of your mentality of, well, just do it, or this is what I'm supposed to do.
Well, again, man, having a bad year was not an option. It legitimately was not an option. It's over.
But you're in a sport. You're in a sport that you could train and do everything, and you can't control necessarily you're in a failing sport.
Oh, I failed, bud.
I know you have. But I'm saying, like, you're in a failing sport. You know what I mean? If you're the best basketball player on the court, you're just better than everybody else. If you're LeBron James. If LeBron James wants to score 25 points tomorrow night and he feels somewhat of a high sense of energy, he's going to score 25 points. You know what I'm saying? Like, in your failing sport and you don't have an option of having a bad year, it has to go deeper into the consistency that you put onto the field, right?
Yeah. And
you're just this freaking ball of energy that just goes at it. You're just in there. It's so ingrained in your thought pattern now to just get after it. I love it.
Yeah.
I mean, that wasn't a question. I'm just thinking through things.
Yeah. I mean, that was my reality, man. I couldn't afford an injury. Couldn't afford a bad year. Really, you couldn't afford a really bad stretch. Mm-hmm. I mean, you know how it goes. But at the same time, man, I'm so fortunate to get the opportunities that I had.
Right.
I mean, I played my first year in double A. I played third base most of that year because our shortstop and second baseman were Orlando Arcia and Yadiel Rivera.
Right.
Both of them were in the big leagues all year this year.
Is Rivera with the Marlins now?
Yeah. They're like plus big league shortstops.
Right.
And but there was a spot at third. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I mean, things could have been so different. Like, I am just so fortunate to have had the opportunities that I had, despite, whatever, tough story, grind, whatever, all like the BS that you could tell the story that way. But, man, I'm fortunate to get the opportunities that I had.
Right. So let me fast forward this to the big leagues. You go to short season, you have a great year, you skip over low A at Appleton, which if I ever get a chance to talk to the front office, I will, because I probably should have gotten to high A.
Yeah.
He should have stayed in low A. I'd be in the show right now.
There's no doubt.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So, anyways, neither here nor there.
Clearly just doesn't even matter.
No, I'm not upset about it.
Not one bit.
So you go to high A, you're in Florida, you have a great year. It was a fun thing to watch as a teammate, former teammate. Was
it, Harv?
It was cool. I will say you played all 9 positions. You're one of 9 professional baseball players that have done that, correct?
I don't know.
I have an elephant's memory. I have no more than you do. That's embarrassing. I'm like a super fan now.
It's almost coming off weird at this point.
Yeah.
Well,
just tell me you love me.
I do. I love you.
All right, there we go.
You know that.
The air is clear.
You know that. I love you. I could rattle off things about him too. That would be, what is this about?
No,
I've
tried.
I think it's interesting. I thought it was fun to watch. It was fun to watch you go all the way up. So then you go to Biloxi, great year there. I think there, from my perspective of it, that was when you kind of solidified yourself as a ball player in professional baseball in professional baseball. And then you go to AAA and you do really well for a long time. And it kind of got annoying, right? Because you kind of get annoying, like, what the heck, man? Like, we're doing well. You've had a great path all the way up there. And you, at this point, you, like, deserve it. You know what I mean? You deserve to play in the big leagues. It's not happening. All this stuff's happening. You got prospects like crazy. The Brewers had signed a bunch of young guys, and they come up, and they're freak athletes. And then it's a good team, right? So now it's kind of like, shit, like they're a good team now, you know? So, like, good teams don't, you know, they stay set, right? If they're winning, they're winning. They're not getting new people in there. You got to pee? Go take a pee. Dr. Thoma took a piss during this.
Dr. who?
Dr. Thoma. So what we'll do is
Dr. Thoma, don't you listen to every single podcast of ours?
Before we take a
he was great.
Before you take a piss, I want to know what we'll do is you tell us this and then take.
And then Mark can start asking me some questions.
Yeah. And then
Steve,
we'll
you're still over there, bud?
I just like, here's the thing for the listeners that the avid ones are going to know that there's times to talk and there's times to listen.
I mean, honestly,
and this was a time for me to listen.
The awesome things about the guys up here, man, that I've noted like right away. Not everyone has to have the answer, and I mean, you guys listen to Harvey, you know he goes deep, right? So
Sure.
we've had, so many deep conversations with people, and it doesn't always end up in an answer. Most of the time, it ends up in
Who knows?
a question that takes you to deeper thought, and I think it's it's just awesome with the lack of ego and kind of the self-awareness that is kind of in this culture up here, and I mean with Steve and Harv and these guys and the guys they're attracting, and it's just so fun to have these conversations that Steve just sat here and was quiet for 30 minutes, and he didn't have to just jump in and make everyone know he's there, and that just says so much, man, about the guys here, because that's abnormal. It is.
What you guys were talking about was foreign to my mindset. So, like, I hope that everyone understands. I think the entire point of this podcast is to take moments to better yourself and listen and try to understand other people's perspective and what makes them great. And then taking those tidbits that are going to go into your life and inserting them in moments that you need them. Right. So anyone who's listening to this, like, take Nate's story and what worked for him, identify it, and try to insert it into certain areas of your life that you can improve.
Yeah.
So for me, like, that is such a mindset that I have never had, at least since I was playing. Right? When you're playing, like, as a player, whether anyone wants to admit it or not, no matter how good of a teammate you are, like, you do have to have a certain ego and selfishness about you to be successful in sports. So
in life, even
in life, but once you get out of sports, like, it becomes so much easier to, like, reach for other perspectives and other things and other moments that you want to achieve. Mm-hmm. So to listen to a guy that I've clearly identified in the start of this as someone I really respect, talk about how it's basically a him against the world attitude. It almost sends you back. It sends you back, 6 or 7 years, and you start going, oh, I remember when I thought that. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like, okay, like, maybe I should insert a little bit of that back into my life now. And
that's
what's
what I was
going
to ask you. I was going to ask you because, so I was watching this motivational video this morning of Eric Thomas. Remember, Eric Thomas? Do you remember him? He's a Detroit guy. Big black guy, motivational speaker.
Oh, is he the guy that's like, you walk into the water?
Yeah, like, how bad do you want it?
Yeah.
So it was crazy because he has this video. It's called Focus, and he's speaking to this sales or corporate America. He's speaking to him. It's one of my favorite videos I've ever seen him do, and I finally found it. I'd lost it for a few years. I used to watch it all the time in college, and so this is I was actually shocked because I meant to send this to you. I'm going to send this to you because I have it on my phone still. Because I just found it after a few years. And as I was watching it, it's weird how you hear things. Do you know, have you ever listened to a motivational video 5 years ago, and then 5 years later you listen to it and you got a different feeling from it?
Yeah, why did I like that?
Yeah, or or maybe you didn't like it and then you do like it.
Sure.
or just something along those lines, but you like kind of go, oh, this is weird. I'm just hearing it differently now. Well, so I did hear it different today. But what I thought about was, and I'd heard it so many times, it's called focus. And he's just talking about like high achievers and wanting it, and people who have success and who don't have success. People who have success focus all the time and they do all this shit. And so I was listening to him, and all I could do was watch the people that were staring at him in the video. And all I was thinking about was like, well, whenever you're listening to people, don't you just ultimately, who are like pumping you up or inspiring you, aren't you ultimately just thinking about yourself while you're listening to them, but you're thinking about your life?
100%.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking, because I always ask myself, like, yes, a motivational speaker or someone like that, like, yeah, like they should make money, like they should make good money if they're good at it. Like the hierarchy of anything, like a plumber. A plumber who's an awesome plumber should get paid more than a shitty plumber, right? So like you should try a brain surgeon who's freaking smart and does awesome brain surgery. He should make more money, because that's who I'd want my family to go to in that situation. A Major League Baseball player who adds value, is a great teammate, wins games, he should make more money than the slapdick who doesn't do all that stuff. But I was sitting there going like, motivational speakers or people who are listening, or when you're listening to people speak, aren't you just thinking about your life while they're talking?
Absolutely. That's the whole point, right? Any good motivational speaker is trying to get to what you're thinking.
Right.
And that's why when like Nate's talking about what he's doing, like I'm internalizing that as what aspect of that do I do?
100%.
How do I use what he's made himself great at is his calling card, right? Because obviously when he started talking about this, like you were extremely passionate about the fact like this was not an option, and you can see like even when Mart asked you, and you heard Mart get a little bit fired up too, because you're like, no, bro, it wasn't an option. He's like, I get that, but like, what are you saying? And like, you can't even get past the point that it wasn't an option.
Well, now
that's how bought in you were on that feeling, on that emotion.
Well, and I would say that I knew that was your answer, but I think like. What I'm interested about human beings is I think anybody in the room has had moments and has moments currently where it's not an option. Like you're just going to do that. And this is what it's going to be. But then like deeper than that, one, I want to know, how did we get to that? And then two, how do you, if someone doesn't feel like that, like how do you get somebody to that? Right? Like imagine if all of us just said, okay, well, what makes a life so fulfilling? And then like we had the blueprint for that, and then it was just everybody just had the on switch that was like, I'm just going to do that.
Well, you base everything off your moral compass, right? So like everything I do in my life, I base off my moral compass. So if it's something that is a non-negotiable in regards to my morals and standards, that's where you put your foot down. And you're like, this has to happen, or this is something that I'm going to accomplish because it's going to help XYZ, right?
Yeah.
So like everything that you're gauging off of is based off the standards that you've set for yourself and who you believe yourself to be, and not accomplishing that internally is devastating, right? It's more devastating than what you would think or what Nate would think or what Nolan would think or Tony would think. That part doesn't matter, right? But the standard that I set for myself is all that matters to me.
Right.
So when I go through that process, that's when you have non-negotiables, is you hit this max point where you go, I've been raised to think that this isn't what I believe in. Mm-hmm. And if I believe in this much, like if I'm going to stand for anything in my life, this is what it has to be. So clearly he got to a point, and Nate's back now. He's sitting here listening. I can tell he's kind of internalizing this. He got to a point where he said, okay, who I am as a man, like I have two options at this point. Mm-hmm. I can cry and I can throw a sob story.
Right.
And go through this and self-pity it. And for the rest of my life, I can have everyone tell me, you're right. That had to be a tough 2 years on you. Or he could say it's not an option.
I mean, that's just funny.
And everyone would have been fine with it. Everyone would have been fine with it. Everyone would have agreed with them. Everyone would agree with you.
In this world, and I would have got the right pills to take care of everything down the road.
Yeah, there he is.
It's just the world, man. It's crazy, the world we live in nowadays.
It is crazy, and
the easy route is just
it's bullshit, is what it is.
MindStrong project.
Yeah. Well, and that's a big part of this, right? That's a big part of how this.
That's why you do it, man.
Yeah,
that's why you guys do this, is to build that self-awareness and and break down how. And I love listening to the different podcasts that I've listened to, because I mean you get people from different career paths and stuff, and everyone's just got their own take, and I just feel like you can draw from literally any human, you can draw a lesson from, and then and have it assist your life, and I think that's what it's about. But it's not easy to sit down and listen to someone talk for a full podcast,
right,
with a humble mindset and take something from it. Like that's not normal. It's easy to go watch TV.
Oh yeah,
it's easy to
mindless activity.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Not that TV. I mean, there's a time.
There's a time. We talked about it. We
Yeah.
talked about it to the kids yesterday. Earn your rest. You know what I mean? Rest is fun when you earned it. Are you having another glass of wine?
So really, what it comes down to is Nate understands his Diamond Series better than anyone else, doesn't it?
Are you guys gonna have another glass of wine after this? Where are we at?
I mean, I still have a glass.
Well, I might
Fill her up, kid.
Well, fill me up, would you? And Nolan, are you having any more?
I'm good.
Nolan's good.
I'll take care of you.
All right, just a little
Nolan's
bit there for the big guy.
Hanging halfway off the couch right now. Just
You getting tired?
Just kidding.
I'm all in right now. I'm loving it. I'm in, dude. I'm in there.
Vodka's in there.
I want it.
Okay, well, before you got out to take a piss, and we were talking, you were spending some time in AAA, you're having some success, and not getting a call, grinding out, and then boom, we're getting there, and you make it to the show.
the real show.
The real show.
The show.
The guy sitting next to us played Major League Baseball. Here was cheers to that. Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
To Nate Orf. Made it to the show. Everyone raise your glass. There we go. Plays in the show. It's awesome. So as we can get in, let's get this one, and then let's see where the boys go. We'll take you through the Diamond Series type deal, let you roll with it. But as you make yourself to the show, and you did the whole I just got to do it, you go through the gauntlet. You got a tremendous amount of mountains to climb. You climbed them. You are still climbing them. You had a lot of support along the way. The cool thing about, for people who don't know you, and for those who do know you, I'm sure are smiling currently, but for people who don't know you, you've had like this tremendous like teamwork mentality, team aspect to your game the whole way up, professionally, collegiately. You've always been like people attract you like right away, and it's obviously you're a good dude, you're fun and all that stuff, but you're like competitive, but you're with people. And I think that's what's interesting about it. Like when you play with Nate Orf, you know he's with you. He's in the game with you. You know what I mean? Like he's there. He's with you. And he's battling with you. So to like have that type of confidence and that swagger, and to give that to other teammates, it's a tremendous thing, because you can't quantify that. You don't know how many people's careers that you helped. You don't how many people had success on their own because they were on the same team as you, which you can never quantify that. You just believe in it, right? And a lot of people have been, to all of us, we've all had great teammates that you can think about, people who helped your game raise because of who they were as a person. But you get through all that. You had a lot of support. I mean, Milwaukee did, a lot of people in that organization supported you, coaches, players, teammates. That was a big day for a lot of people, not just your family, obviously, friends and family. But for a lot of people in that organization, it was awesome, because you playing Major League Baseball made a lot of people feel good about themselves too.
Yeah.
And we've talked a lot about influence and platforms. So you get up to the big leagues, you get this call, what did you learn? What have you learned? And then feelings, like take us through some of that experience then, and then what life is like now.
Well, before we get into your last question, let's talk about the support for a second, because yeah, I mean, it's just there's so many people that help you along the way, and you have to have that. There's no way to do it on your own, which is why it's important to surround yourself with good people. But you know, and I always think back, and we didn't even talk about this, but so when I got to rookie ball, I played second base, you know, moved to infield for the first time ever. So I was terrible, like terrible. You saw me some, but
Yeah.
I mean, as you can imagine, I was a natural catcher moving to infield. I had no feet, you know, the whole deal. And at the same time, my you know, my manager that year, Tony Diggs, is like,
Tony Diggs,
dude. You know, there's never one ground ball he hit me that he didn't want to hit me.
Yeah.
And you know, when I'm in rookie ball, I'm 23, I'm playing one out of like every 4
You had
days,
Bob,
right?
Bob Missick.
Missick, yeah.
He loved
He's
you
the
too,
man.
dude.
Yeah.
Is he still there?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Nice.
But the fact that I never felt like I wasn't good enough to take a ground ball in practice, you know, and like from Diggs, and so he always sticks out big time to me, at the people's willingness to work with me, you know. And Missick, our infield coordinator, one of his sayings that I still live by, and when I'm playing shortstop in Miller Park, you know, in my second start in the big leagues, I mean, it's a thought that I'm constantly like going to. And he has a saying. He's like, you will or you won't, you do or you don't. And it's one of those things that I'll be like I do, man. Like you do, like you've always done, like you do. So when I'm playing shortstop in the big leagues, when I'm a natural catcher, and my journey, you know, for me, that was one of the coolest things, was to get to play there, because it kind of just like showed the work paid off. But it's that reminder of like what Missick said, of like you do.
Yeah, you do.
And you know, in the moment right before a pitch comes, when you better be locked in, you know, it's nice to like be able to go back to something like that, and something that someone said that I know that when the ground ball's hit, I'm going to make the play.
Yeah.
You know, because I do. And that's just an example about how the people around you, like, that leave that little mark. And Missick has no idea probably that I even know that he said that to me one day. You know, and so that's just cool. I mean, it's taken just so many different people, and I mean, we started the podcast talking about how Steve opened up my eyes to the fact that a person going to the school that I went to could be a freshman All-American.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's just a constant.
He was a guy who allowed you to know that success is okay.
Yeah, and it can happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is freaking cool. That is freaking cool.
I don't even remember your second question. Yes, like there was part 2 or something. I don't know, but
I don't know. What are you thinking, Steve?
No, I think you know, it's fun to hear a story, you know, and my one big thing that I'd like to hear before you take him through the Diamond Series is pretty much the highlight of my summer, honestly, was watching you hit your first home run in the big leagues. And kind of your theme has been, no matter what you do in life, like, you need to make sure that you're being a good human, right? At the end of the day, like, you need to make sure that you're affecting people. And for anyone who didn't know this, like, this guy tanks a home run to left, gets it out. This is a little dude here, by the way.
Back.
This is a little dude.
Way back.
This is a little dude.
It was down the line for sure, but it was way back.
It was out.
Just as far enough.
Yeah,
Keep
it came
in mind
off
he's
his
a
bat.
little
We
dude.
said that's out. Yeah. And this guy comes in, and I'm watching the highlight of this, and he comes into the dugout, and, you know, I had never played in the big leagues. You're talking to an 0 for 14 indie ball guy here, but I've been in a dugout or two in my life. And when you get into a dugout, there's no faking.
It's sacred.
You don't fake stuff in the dugout. You just don't do it. And this guy comes down the tunnel, and it is clear that every single human being in that dugout was ecstatic for you. And it was so clear. Anyone who's played, it was so clear to see on television that they were that. And you walked through, and you were doing some little stupid stuff with your head, which I love. I love all that stuff. You know that about me.
You were
but you were juiced, right?
Oh, for sure.
And all of a sudden, before we know it, one of the moments of the summer, you're on a couple teammates' shoulders outside of the dugout, and you're up
Curtain
calling in a big league stadium.
Yeah, good moment.
And what's weird, pretty cool moment is when I saw that, I was on the couch that you were on having a cup of Joe this morning with me.
Good moment.
Great couch. Another great
couch.
life moment.
And watching this, and it's one of those things kind of from For Love of the Game when the girl's watching the TV in the room in the dorm room and all the other friends are like, why is this such a big deal to you?
She's holding on to the pillow.
Yeah, she's holding on to the pillow and she's having a great time. She hasn't seen Billy for a couple of years.
Yeah.
But you're going, you know what? I've been through
Chappie.
some stuff with that person. Like, I knew that you had been through a lot at that point.
Yeah.
So clearly the moment in itself is great. And that's a story that if I was you, anytime I had one sip of alcohol, I would be telling. But how special on top of that, truthfully, knowing that if one of your teammates happens to listen to this, you might get a little guff for it. But how truthfully special was that not only did you get to have a moment that every kid wants to have, but on top of that, people within the organization were clearly ecstatic for you on top of that.
Yeah, I mean that's what it's all about. I mean that's why you treat people the right way. That's why you handle your business the right way. That's it. And it was cool. Honestly, I almost wish that didn't happen because that it glorified me in a way that I'm super uncomfortable with.
Yeah.
Not me. I'm going to talk about it right now.
And if I picture a curtain call, I picture and I pictured that. I pictured myself hitting a home run for my first hit. I had planned on what I was going to say to the third base coach already. And so when I'm rounding third, I'm like, "Hey Ed, was that cool? Or was that good?" I said, "Hey Ed, was that good?"
Did you say it?
Oh yeah.
You said it.
I had it planned out.
You idiot. That's great.
I'm ready to do this, but I never thought about a curtain call. So I never even, in the moment I was like, I'm just enjoying it, man. And I go down the dugout, and as soon as I realized that the crowd wants a curtain call, I got Jesus Aguilar. I mean, it's a 300-pound,
It's a big dog.
Big
strong
boy.
man, and I'm on his shoulder. So.
Hopefully everyone is YouTubing this currently.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
still with us
That's
here.
got to be the picture.
Not only-
I feel like we've been talking for about 4.5 hours.
That's
So
gotta be
hopefully
the
people
picture.
get to hear this part.
So I mean,
We'll
not
just
only
play this part only.
they throw me on the shoulders and then they walk me up 8 stairs, him and Manny Pena, and so I get up there and I mean it's the same, man. I at my first initial human instinct is this is kind of awkward.
Yeah.
you know?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you can never enjoy it.
But then, but I take that second and I'm
You
like,
go, I got to beat this.
I'm gonna enjoy this moment.
There
man.
you go.
And I think I pounded my chest, but I took the time to look at the crowd because you can easily see a blur whatever. But I took the time to look at the crowd and really enjoy that split second and that was, I mean, it was a fun moment and it's what it's all about, and we've gone through my journey and stuff, and that's the day you hope for, so to get it and to get to enjoy that moment was, it was awesome.
And then the commercial.
The Snickers?
Yeah. What? How many commercials did you do? You had a
What year
lingerie
is it?
commercial,
What year
or
is
what are you
Snicker?
talking
Are
about
you
here?
a
Ever heard of Calvin Klein?
You haven't seen this? You haven't heard about this? You
You have a
haven't seen
Snickers
this?
commercial?
Yeah.
An actual one.
A dim Tillard one.
Oh,
He
I've
is
seen
in a
it.
Snickers commercial,
I've
dude.
seen it.
It's
I've seen
raining Snickers on this guy.
I've
Let's
seen
just
it.
say
Tell the
it was
story.
enough of
Just
a-
tell the story,
All right.
and then we'll
So,
take you
yeah.
through the Diamond
I've
Series.
seen it too.
So
but yeah,
yeah,
tell the
so
story.
when I signed as a free agent, the scouts before the draft, he's like, would you sign for $1,000? And I'm like, buddy, I'd sign for a Snickers bar. Get me in there, right? Little did I know that I was making a nice move right there. Also, little did I know that that's terrible negotiating skills.
Doesn't matter.
And I didn't even get my 1,000, right? So
this is a $1,000 story. Easy $1,000 story. Great decision by you.
So
quick K.
So people like this story and all that stuff, and people like the underdog, whatever. And Snickers found out about that piece of the story and contacted me, and they've been great to me ever since. If anyone,
Will you get free Snickers?
Come on, kid.
Yeah, this is the big leagues, isn't it?
Come on.
Not a bash. If we get a vending machine there, you're paying just like everyone else.
This is like the Oakland A's with Billy Bean, dude.
Gonna pay for soda?
Wait. So Snickers found out about that,
Yeah.
and now you legitimately have free Snickers?
I think they're like a really great company. I had a guy like message me and be like, I worked for Snickers for 40 years. Like, they're a great company. So I think
that's pretty cool.
Like, I think they're, I think whoever's running the show at Snickers is like really good people.
Well, you want to talk about awkward. You in the moment of you hitting a big league home run felt awkward. In this commercial, it's basically raining Snickers on you. If I remember correctly.
Eat Snickers?
Oh yeah, people eat Snickers all the time.
I used to eat Snickers all the time.
Disregard that
could go for
last Snickers.
Yeah,
sorry, hey, there he is. There's your ambassador, Nate Orf.
You know what? It sounds like you need to try another Snickers.
Genius by them. It's working again.
Yeah, exactly. It's the gift that keeps on giving.
No, that's different. That's something else. But
that is epic. I didn't know that part of it. I remember seeing the video of the Dillard piece. Well, okay, so let's go through your Diamond Series, and then maybe before we all rest our heads to the pillow, we'll get Vaca on this thing, and we'll do a quick little Nolan Johnson questionnaire as we kind of buzz it up and we let it roll and kind of finish the night with some laughs. But going through our Diamond Series, you've obviously you know the feel of it. We had a tremendous week. We're going to do another podcast.
Mm-hmm.
We'll do another one. We'll rip it again. But for you personally, let's dive into you. Let's go towards life. You're talking to, obviously you're a ball player to people who will listen to this, but you're talking to some buddies here. So when we talk about life and your Diamond Series, what's your purpose, man? And you've touched on that a lot already, but what's your why? We identify the purpose through your identity, your service to others, and your struggle. What are you willing to struggle for? And so as you go through life here, what do you take into your day that gives you that drive, that why?
Man, I mean the quick answer to that is, I think, make the world a better place. And Coach Dars, when on your podcast, talks about the Millionaire Club. Billionaire with a B. And
she's not messing around.
That's awesome. That's what it's all about. Make the world a better place. Leave the world better than you left it. But for me, like, really personally, I want to have a family. I want to be a great dad, a great husband, and for me, part of the story that we've talked about, has led to a lot of sacrifices in that aspect of life. Yeah. So, while there's like this, the athlete side in me, like, there's this whole nother like life that I look forward to getting to experience that I really haven't gotten to experience yet. Right. And it's awesome because I always ask guys, I'm just curious little Nate. Yeah. I'm always asking guys like in the clubhouse, what was the best day of your life, or like some like crazy questions. And there's like, it's always like the birth of my first son. And then it's like, marriage, big leagues. Like, so it's so cool because I feel like I have, like, I'm just getting started, man.
Yeah. Best is yet to come.
It is awesome.
Yeah.
And again, like, I was like, man, for a second here, it turned into a sob story. And I'm like, man, this has been an awesome journey, and I'm just getting started. So, I just want to be a great dad. I want to have a great family, and obviously it's never going to be easy, but in the end, I want to leave the world, a better place.
Heck yeah, man. Heck yeah. You're doing a great job so far. Keep it rolling. Just do it, dude. Just do it.
It's the only option.
Just freaking do it. If you're
Can't be a bad dad.
You're not going to do that. You're going to get pissed at you. So you go down, leave the world a better place. You're living it, breathing it, thinking it, doing it. You go down to first base. You got standards. Obviously, you wouldn't be where you're at. You wouldn't be thinking, doing the things you're doing if you didn't have high standards. So mentally, physically, what are some things that you put in front of yourself that you have to accomplish, you have to achieve daily to put yourself in a good place to respect your purpose?
Man, honestly, that's a tough question, because when, like, I was talking to a mentor earlier this year, and I was looking at him, I'm like, I am not a disciplined person at all. And I look at him, he's like, he just stared at me.
Yeah.
He's like, you're the most disciplined person I know. I'm like, I am not at all. And so for me to be like, man, every day I need to do this and this, and like that's how I live. Like, that's just the most like BS answer I can give you,
Right.
Because the reality is, like, man, it's just a journey, and it's just, and we're just constantly evolving, and the decisions we make just constantly evolve us into who we are and who we're going to be. And so I want to just, I think like body, mind, soul, that's like my main, how can I make my body better? That's a good day. If you made your physical body better, you made your mind better, and your soul stronger, that's a good day.
Yeah.
So if I can live every day impacting those three things, then
You did it.
Then at the end of the day, you can, you're gonna be who you want to be.
It's the choices, right? You're the result of those choices.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you just got to nail that, simplify,
Right.
get it done,
Right.
and you're going to be good. You trust that.
Right. It's that easy.
Yeah.
Life is that simple.
Yeah, life's
it's so
easy.
difficult.
No, yeah, you should never have a bad day.
That is so far from true.
So you body, mind, and soul, as Orphy puts it, and you nail that, and you have these choices ahead of you. You've talked all week about make the decision. So the decisions that you make lead yourself to systems. Now, I've kind of tailored this question a little bit differently in the last couple of days, or last couple of weeks, and I'm going to tailor it differently to you again. Okay, obviously, you're extremely, you try to eat well, you try to sleep well, you try to surround yourself with the right people. And a lot of what MindStrong has done and the Diamond Series has done is that is a big part of our systems and your habits and your routines. But what I've been more curious about, and I think Steve aligns with me in these questions too, but like, what are your triggers? What are the things that stop you from achieving or optimizing your habits that give you the best chance for success? What are some of the things that you've found that have been in your way? Your own way, that you've, mental or physical barriers.
Things that get in my way?
Yeah, what are your triggers? What are the things that when you realize you get off your game? What's the things that are taking you off your game?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure I think we're all in the same boat.
Mm-hmm.
And
Women.
yeah.
Oh, man.
Maybe a little bit.
Yep,
but-
that little noise confirms
No.
what I just said.
Yeah, again, back to like what I was saying earlier about, I think that like the human instinct is like, take the easy route,
Right.
and that's it for all of us, and that goes into nutrition and sleep. I mean, everything, and one of the things is, I think I've been kind of so hard on myself, and I'm not saying everyone needs to live like I've lived and make the decisions I've made, because it's been tough, and I have a lot of challenges ahead of me for the decisions I've made. I can't go from the man I am right now, and I'm not ready to have a family. I'm not ready to be a great dad. Relationships are something that I'm really like gonna have to work on.
Right.
And that's my reality. but I just think it goes back to this natural instinctive desire for like the easy way, and so obviously I cave into that sometimes,
Right.
And but I think the decisions we make, when I make that decision, it oftentimes just eats at me. And one day, here's an example. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
One day I'm down in Texas, and it's like Saturday, and watch football with my buddy, go eat Raising Cane's, huge sweet tea. I'm in Texas, man. I'm like, it's my off day. I'm off. I'm like, I'm gonna enjoy these Cane's chicken fingers. Fantastic. Shout out to Cane's.
Stevie likes that one.
And I can't go to Cane's and not get a sweet tea, right?
Right.
So I do this, and man, like within, like 20 minutes, I feel just horrendous. And I'm like,
I just talked about this the other day.
Pissed off. So, man, this is hard for me to say, boys. But all right, so I go into my room, and it's nighttime. I close my door. I throw sunglasses on. So it's like the darkest thing. So there's nothing. I can't see anything. I'm in nothing but like leg tights, and I just do 1,100 push-ups.
1,100?
Yeah, 1,100 with this sweet tea, chicken fried, fries and ketchup, this gorgeous meal in my stomach, and I go, no, and
1,100.
1,100.
Did you do this for a week?
No, I mean
The Mash Boys do.
I did. I got a picture on my phone.
If we do it together.
Yeah.
So if I do 6 and you do 11, we did 17.
Harvey, you know about getting a little workout at the top of every minute.
Yeah, I haven't been able to move since.
I taught you that one.
Yeah, you did with a weighted vest on.
So yeah, I mean I got a
He
picture.
can crush push-ups.
1,100?
I do believe the 1,100 because of how fast he was doing push-ups the other day.
I mean, I got the picture on my phone of the stopwatch after.
I believe
you guys can do the math yourself.
Just
but,
crazy.
Yeah,
But
sure.
that's what I mean when
Give
I
me another
say
cookie.
that like that
Get
shit,
the big dog another cookie.
that
eh?
just ate me up, and
Yeah.
I just it pisses me off, and that, I mean, that's like an extreme example, but
Well, I mean, I think what everyone who's still listening wants to know is, did you get the Caniac combo, or what? Like, what are you going?
you think
are
I'm
you
a box
going-
guy?
I'm a
Now, did you
Caniac
do-
combo
You think
double
I'm a box-
fried.
Now, did you
think I'm
have-
a three-finger
did you do-
guy?
toast? No,
No.
I'm a Caniac combo
Yeah.
guy.
I do a
Caniac
coleslaw
combo?
Texas
Yeah.
toast. I get mad with the 2 Texas toast. I don't like the 2 Texas toast.
You do
I
two
don't.
Texas toast?
I get coleslaw
You're a coleslaw guy. I respect that.
with the Texas toast.
Exercise.
And fry.
The guy who made Cane's chicken was homeless.
And that'll get you to do 1,100 push-ups.
That's
I'm
it.
serious. Did you know that?
I'm inspired by that man.
No. I'm not shitting. I'm not.
I
messing
mean
with
that. Yeah.
And really, what it comes down to is vision.
it. I was
And
there.
this is what everyone.
And this is what we've been talking about.
And
the
this is
whole
what
time.
everyone tunes in for. It's where
Steve.
Steve takes over, third base. I legged out a lot of triples in my day,
Ooh, you're
and
fast.
I could fast. I couldn't hit an
he
inside
plays,
pitch to
he
save
plays
my
college
life.
softball every Thursday
So
night.
I'd put the
Still
ball in the
legging
right
them out.
center gap, leg it out for 3, and that's your vision. And that's what you're trying to really achieve, right? Is where you want to be and what you're doing and where you're going. So what's next for the man sitting in front of us, the Nathan Orf? And while you say this, I'd love for you to look into the camera right in front of us
Yeah.
and
Lay-
let them know what your vision is.
Lay it in there, big dog. Lay it in.
Because no one's going to love this little piece of
Yeah.
content.
Well, I'm,
Go ahead. We'll post this on our Instagram, dude.
That's sick.
You're gonna be famous.
It's nice. Yeah. I mean, that's a great. I love that question because I mean we talked for so long about like accomplishments and all this stuff
Yep.
that like I laugh at because it's so fluffy and like it's so great and it was so easy. It was in the past. Like the way I see it, like everything in the past was easy. You know, like looking back at it, it's like that's easy.
That's the fun part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the reality is like, man, like tomorrow I gotta have a really good day. And this coming year, it's going to be one of the hardest years of my life. And that's the way, that's the way I look at it is like, I can't like blink, man. And the hardest days of my career are probably ahead of me still. And so it's like, it's just continuing this journey, man. It's all a journey, and trying to stay locked in and give it all I got, I guess. And just attack, man, and attack and live this life with no regrets. And my goals are just huge. I'll be honest, like my goal, I told you guys, like I was thinking about the moment when we were meditating the other day. I'm thinking about, like the biggest moment, finding that joy is like my call up, and that was fantastic, and that's in the past, and it pissed me off because I'm like, well, what's next? And the reality is, like, my goal is to be a big league all-star. Like, why would it not be? And I say that, like, is it possible? It might as well be. I'm here. I'm not done yet. Is it realistic? No. Does that matter to me? No. Like, do I but that is what is going to fuel me until I'm done. Until I'm either an all-star and I'll find the next thing, or I'm done. And so my vision is just this, like, man, just battle on. Like, I might be older for the game, whatever, but I mean, people can look at me that way, and that's the way I get perceived at this point. But man, I'm young. I'm like, man, I just believe, like, the possibilities are endless. Why would I limit myself? Like, my goal is not to play in the major leagues for a full season. Like, that's fantastic. Like, I hope that happens. Like, that's amazing. Like, my goal is to get in the big leagues and be an all-star, be one of the best in the world, like the best in the world. You know what I mean? And why wouldn't it be? And that's the way I see it. And moving forward, it's like, man, like, let's go. Like, there's a lot of life ahead, and it's gonna be fun, man.
Everyone should have a new favorite player.
Yeah.
No doubt.
I think,
Go buy your jerseys. Where's the
it's-
AAA squad at?
Just moved to San Antonio.
Doesn't matter what
You
it
guys are
says,
there?
as long as it says Orf on the back.
Buy
You guys
it.
are
Buy
there?
the uni.
And then donate. I'll start a GoFundMe after this.
I think
Snickers.
I think it's cool.
Yeah, right?
I think it's cool how you said this is going to be the hardest year of my life. I don't know why it made me think about this, and we'll wrap things up here. But it made me think about when I was growing up. When I was playing baseball my whole life, my dad used to always say, when I was like 6, dude, he'd be like, "This is the most important year of your life." And then I would be 7, and he goes, "This is the most important year of your life." Then I'd be 8, and he was saying season. This is the most important season of your life. And I got to be in high school, and I asked him one time, I said, "Why do you say that to me every year?" You know what I mean? Like, well, you said last year was the most important season of my life. Like, what the hell? You even say that for 10 years, damn it. Oh, which one was it? Which one was the most important?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I remember asking him that when I was in high school. He used to say weird shit to me when I was a little kid. and it's funny because I say it now, and it's funny how stuff stays with you. But how you just said this is the hardest year of your life. And we talked about this on this podcast while you went and took the leak. But Steve and I were talking about how when people say stuff, you ultimately think about your own life, right?
Yeah.
You said that just now. I think it makes sense in this podcast because I just thought to myself, like, yeah, dude, 2019, for anybody who's listening and will listen, and for everybody in the room, like, that's our hardest year of all our lives. This is our hardest year. This
That's
is the
all
most.
we got.
This is the most
And that's
important
back to
year.
that's the only option.
Yeah, this is the most important year of our lives, of all our lives. This is it. This is the most important year. And I remember when I asked my dad that when I was in high school, I said, "Why do you say that every year?" And he just said very, very simply, he goes, "Because this is the most important season of your life." And I was like, I didn't understand it at the time because I was like, "That you said that. And now I'm asking you the question, and you said what you had already said. You didn't even go deeper." You know what I mean? And when I got older, I just started comprehending that. And I thought to myself, when I was playing pro ball and we were teammates our last year, I used to think, like, it's crazy because every year of an athletic journey literally is the most important season of your life. Like when you're a freshman in high school, like that is your most important season because you have to solidify yourself then and there.
Well, it's just the moment that you're in. Like,
Yeah, it's the moment
now.
you're in.
The now, that's the most. That's
It's
all
the
you
now.
got.
Yeah, it's crazy. And when I was younger, I remember asking him that, and then he gave me the same answer that he had been telling me. So you said this is your hardest year, like that jacks me up, and it should jack everybody else up. Like 2019 is your hardest year. Like stop chasing comfort. Like dive into that shit. Dive into it and dive into the hardness. Dive into it.
Yeah.
What's cool about you mentioned support earlier. You have our support. Obviously, we support you. I hope you have a great year. I think you will, but that's not the point. Just keep doing what you're doing. Stay in there. Just do it. And I'm sure we'll do a little before we all get to sleep tonight. And we have our, for some reason, we're all 30 years old and still have adult sleepovers.
I'm not 30.
Yeah, you're right. I'm not
down
either.
for a
I'm not
sleepover.
either. Steve trained me to say 30, that we were 30 like 4 years ago. I've been 30 for 4 years. I don't know what happened. You know what I mean? So it's crazy.
I'll explain that on the next podcast.
Yeah, it's insane. It's insane. I've been 30 since I was 20. It's insane. So I'm just 30, whatever. And so, yeah, we have 30-year-old adult sleepovers for tomorrow night. I'm not going to give Steve's address away, but maybe I will. But we have Pajama Party Friday. So that's tomorrow.
Cut him off.
Pajama Party.
Bartender.
Pajama Party Friday is tomorrow. We have our whiskey and our steaks and our potatoes, our asparagus type deal. We have a good time. We watch a movie. We all relax, and we have a good weekend. It's what we do in the winter months. From my end and the rest of the crew, I think, first of all, before I dive into this, let's have a cheers here.
Perfect.
Good
Boys.
job, Orfie.
Yeah. I think we are, we're 2.5 hours in. This has got to be our longest podcast. I will say that was awesome. That was awesome. Going into it, before we even pressed record, we knew it would be awesome. It's been an awesome week. I think the thing about Orf, the thing that I will say as a friend of yours, I love you. I know these guys love you. Steve, it's a cool dynamic to know that you guys met each other first, and then I kind of got mixed into your guys' world. And then we somehow, for some odd reason, 8 years later, after I jumped into youth too, or 9 years later, we're sitting here in Minnesota and we're doing a podcast. I think it's freaking awesome. I think it's something that, who cares? You know what I mean? Hopefully people take some stuff from the story and they follow you, and hopefully your platform was raised not because of you, but for what you can give to people and what you can share with people, because you do, dude. You've been doing that. You've been doing what you're doing right now when I met you in 2010, when he met you in, 2008? Mm-hmm. And I just think that we've talked, the first day you were here, you talked about how the universe brings people together, how energy brings people together. And I do believe that. I do believe that for some reason we're supposed to put on the mic, press play, and we're just supposed to start talking. I do believe that we were all supposed to meet each other. I do believe that this is supposed to happen. We're supposed to be around this, and you're supposed to go out there and you're supposed to keep doing. You're supposed to attack your hardest year of your life, as Steve and I are supposed to, right? But I also, you've made a lot of people believe in themselves, and I think that that's really cool. For myself to be a part of that, that's really cool. Right, but I also know so many people that would agree, and I'm sure are nodding their head as I say this, about watching you or being around you, and how you've just been you. You've just been Nate Orf, and so many people have just bought into themselves because of Nate Orf. I think that that's amazing, and so to be able to record that on MindStrong's behalf, to have a piece of that story and that belief and that drive, and then be able to take that and share that with the world, extremely grateful for that, dude. I mean, it's awesome. And for you to drive up here, the story you driving up here and doing this live, it says it's everything that you stand for. It's who you are as a man. And I'm honored, dude. I'm honored to call you a friend.
Yeah, man. I mean, yeah, thanks for having me up here.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's an easy draw to come here, and you guys are onto something really great, and I think it's cool because, seeing you around the kids alone, but your podcasts have made my life better, and it's like, if our job's to make the universe a better place, like you guys are doing that with MindStrong, and it's fantastic, man, and best of luck continuing to grow the brand and continuing to have success and make the world a better place, and we need this. The world needs it.
Amen.
Cheers, boys.
Cheers.
Cheers.